All right, good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us this evening. Looks like we have a few workshop items to take a look at. So we will begin this evening with our first workshop item, which is 991 Portland Road. This is map 63, lot 6, and this is a sketch plan review. This is for mixed-use commercial business development along Portland Road and Waterfall Drive in the Park North contract zone. Emily, anything to add on this workshop item?
You'll be able to visualize what it looks like. A model has been brought, so that's what's on the other side of the room.
Okay.
We did have initial discussions through the PDRC group from city staff, so we have given some initial comments to the applicant, and that's what you're asked to do tonight as well for sketch plan review. The applicant also hosted a focus group, which is similar to a neighborhood meeting, although he'll host a neighborhood meeting also, but a focus group to understand what residents in the area we're looking to have in this development. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Emily. And applicant with us this evening.
Good evening. Elliot Chamberlain, owner of Park North Development. We're here tonight to talk about, for right now, what we're calling Cascade Village. With me tonight is Matt Cummings and Joe Marceau from Cummings Architecture out of Ipswich, Mass., who put the model together. As Emily said, we elected, where this is a little unique, a little different, we elected to have a focus group outside of what we know we have to do for a neighborhood meeting to get some very early on comments from the neighborhood itself as to whether they like it, don't like it, things they would like to see, activities, so on and so forth. We then proceeded to have a staff meeting with all the staff at City Hall. We had another meeting today at 1 o'clock with the fire department to really get into the details. Where this is a little unique and a little different design, we're trying to weed out all the things that we haven't thought about yet, and I think we've covered a lot of the bases. And then we're here tonight and get your comments, and then the idea is to take comments from all of those meetings, make any adjustments, and then make a full application. So what I'd like to do is bring Matt Cummins up to talk about the entire project and why we did certain things, and hopefully be able to answer any questions you may have. Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Hello, Matthew Cummings, Cummings Architects and Interiors. Elliot approached me about designing the property and asked me whether I had any ideas to make it unique. So we did a precedent study and tried to understand the town a little bit better and come up with an idea that was not a shopping plaza where people park their cars, get out and go buy something and leave. So our thought was to create a plaza and a place where people would have a sense of community. And the first thing that came to mind was get rid of the cars. So what we did is we designed a sort of a European plaza in a way where people get together and they spend time with different uses and so forth and activities within the plaza. It doesn't mean they don't shop within it, but we took the cars and put them in a parking lot. So you have to walk your way in. When I mean walk your way in, it's not too far. There's a drop-off right off Waterfall, but again, you can enter from different points. And the idea is once you've entered it, you've entered this plaza that's a community of buildings. There could be different uses. There could be an ice cream shop and a coffee shop. You could buy a hat. Of course, there's a brewery. And other uses would happen inside the space too. There's different scale buildings. The buildings have different roof shapes. Some of them have to do with historic context of Saco in different areas, but it also has a modern flavor to it too. So it's not so contemporary, it doesn't feel like the community, and at the same time, it doesn't feel stale and old. It's a mixture of both. There's also a rink in the middle, so in the winter, people can skate, or in the summer, the rink, of course, will get drained out on a 93-degree day like today, and there could be other really cool activities within that space. But the idea is to draw people into this plaza where they don't see cars, they see trees, they get to see other people within the community and interact with them, with scaled buildings that have a human scale to them and activities that people look forward to leaving their house, not just buy stuff on Amazon. That's my architectural story for the project. Does anybody have any questions?
Board members, any thoughts? Do you have more, or is this a pausing or sort of turning it back over to the board?
Giving it to you guys to see whether there's any questions. It could be architectural questions, or parking questions, or use questions. You might ask, what's that pathway from Portland Road straight through? So there's an arch to create a sense that there's something in the space. Any question you'd like to ask?
Sure. So board members, any thoughts? Jeff?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, I mean, I have questions and thoughts, but would it be appropriate if we kind of all gathered around the display they took a lot of time building? Maybe you could give us a little bit more sense of the line, and then we return so that all of our questions would be documented for people who are remote.
Sure, yeah, I was just going to ask if we could kind of go up there and you could point out some of these.
Yeah, of course, that'd be fun.
Sure.
Let's do that.
All right.
And we have 2 microphones here, so I'll just ask that planning board members share a microphone, and then if you can also use a microphone, that way the recording can pick up on what you're saying. I know it's a little awkward to stand around the model with a microphone, but the recording won't pick it up otherwise. And just make sure it's on, please.
Hello? That's right, and that's Portland Road, and that's Waterfield Drive. And the idea is, well, there's a bunch of ideas, but one of them is that you can't really see, you can't necessarily see what's inside the space except for a peak. So when you're heading down Portland Road, you can see a peak of what's going inside, what's happening inside the space. But it's not the architecture that attracts you in as much as you see people and activities happening within the space that draws you in. It could be at night, there's some lights on, or it could be in the daytime. You might see, kiosk kind of trucks selling hot dogs and people spending time out here. When you're on Portland Road, we put a cool little tower on the corner to draw your eye, and you can see that people could sit outside dining or having a pint. Over here, you can see there's a passageway, that was Elliot's idea, where you can, it creates a sense of entrance. Of course, nobody would necessarily enter there, and there's different scale buildings. So there's details like, for instance, you can see around this building here. So we put a roof that might be the type of roof and type of building you might see in Saco. There's details like when you drive in down Waterfall, there's a portico. This might be a nice restaurant, and at night this might be lit up. So when you're looking down, you'll see that building, and it's only 2 stories. And then when you drive in, people might get dropped off at night right here, or anyways, you could also get dropped off right here into the portico. There's a cool little alley with different scale buildings. Even when you drive down into this space, there's a small mansard roof tower right here. We put a little bookstore in. So we try to create variety in spaces too by pushing the buildings in and out and creating different scales of the buildings, human scales. You can see there's little roofs and things happening in spaces, so it's not just a glass or metal facade either.
I think one of the things that's different, besides the buildings having their obvious need, different shops, different types of services, is the fact that really that's an event center in the middle, where there could be, in the winter it might be frozen, in the spring, summer, and fall you may have, whether it's a yoga class, a music event, a kids program, art show, all different programs where somebody could come and enjoy the outside without actually going shopping. But the idea is create that mixture between servicing the businesses and having a place that you might just want to gather. Whether you think of, I can't think of the little park down the street at the intersection. Yeah, Pepper Park. People might go there and hang out. In the middle of the Old Port, there's a park, and people will go and just spend time there, even though they may not go there for shopping. Again, keeping the cars out of the, off the back of the property. What this doesn't show is the parking lot comes down to about here, and this is where the apartments that were approved are going to be built. So you have the apartments looking over the backside, Waterfall Drive to the north, and obviously Portland Road to the west. A complete mixture of different two-story, single-story, every different use you can think of, whether it's financial, food, entertainment, personal services. The area that's labeled number 17, those large vehicles are what could be food trucks that could be there permanently, or they could be there on a temporary basis, there again for different events. You'll see this square over here on the east side of the event center is a temporary stage where you might have a show or a music event where you could do a temporary stage. That's not a permanent structure. As far as the parking goes, we've taken, if you go by the ordinance, we're a little bit short on parking, but we're going to be looking into shared parking, shared uses, where some of these businesses will be open in the morning and midday, some will be open midday to evening, and some will be open in the evening. So we don't see this as a case where everybody's open at the same time for the same amount of hours. Attractive visual as you're going down Portland Road, and as Matt said, when you're coming south, you get to see into, whether you're traveling up Waterfall or traveling south on Portland Road, you can see into it to see if there's an event going on or a gathering. Plenty of landscape islands, sitting areas, 2 drop-off points. We're looking in, you got a back service drive. This, where the food trucks are, will also be used as a service drive. We had a great conversation with the fire department today. We've got to make a few adjustments so they have accessibility that's acceptable to them, to make sure they've got coverage on all the buildings. So we're really trying to think of all the different needs this facility will have. Obviously, this will, once fully developed, this will have a staff that will take care of events, make sure it's clean all the time. We're looking at, somebody brought up, would we have a public bathroom that may go in that building that has a tunnel through it? So we're trying to think of all different things that would be unique to this site that, say, you may not find in other shopping areas or village areas in southern Maine. Any quick questions, comments?
Is there a residential component to this too, or is this all commercial?
I would love there to be one, but as of right now, our contract zone says no residential from this alleyway for the apartments to Route 1, the first 600 feet. So right now, our contract zone prohibits it. The underlying zone allows it. So we're trying to decide if we're going to go down that road or just leave residential out of it. I will say there's a couple of buildings, this 2-story on the end, I think would make a great spot for second-story apartments. And even if there was, we're probably talking in the neighborhood of 12 to 24 units, not any large amount of units, even if it did happen.
Thank you. First of all, great design. I think it's really neat that you've taken a lot of our design criteria with the human scale and the different facades and shapes and human scale to heart. I was going to ask about the service corridors because the multi-use buildings, how are you going to get some of the daily needs, replenishment of stock to them? And it sounds like you kind of have it covered here and particularly on that back side so they can run supplies through the courtyard in the morning.
Yes, and so there are many places, and I'll go back to the old port since it's familiar to everybody. There are many places where they have to go down alleyways or, so they'll park the truck as close as they can and then take it on dollies from there or smaller equipment. So having, this is really a multi-purpose area. It would act as food trucks or entertainment area. It will act as a delivery pad and also act as for the fire department, if they need to pull up vehicles, we told them we would make sure that they've got enough width up the middle to pull a vehicle right up, basically close to that building. So that will have multiple reasons. Then you've got this back alley that will come behind the building, both for that little jog off the end of the large building is a two-car garage, trash area, and we're thinking of also having another trash garage over here, but also you'd be able to park up and then pull in that alleyway between the buildings. So there will be some, handwork, hand delivery, dolly work, but at least you're not parking a delivery truck way out here.
I don't have the microphone. Yep. We meet in the fire department this morning, and they were favorable towards the project. It's interesting, there's a lot of interesting things about this. But one of them is it's not like this giant shopping plaza with this massive building where you can't get to the center of it and you can't get around it. You can imagine service or emergency areas, you can enter from all these different spots if you had to, right? Yeah. Okay.
Perfect, yeah. And, you mentioned the Old Port. I tend to think of Kennybunk, Main Street Kennybunk, with their community ice rink, and the activity that sees is phenomenal. Pickleball in the summertime and little concert venues. Would this possibly be refrigerated ice where you could know that you'd have ice, or are we going to be strictly weather dependent?
We're looking into that. I'm hoping we can do refrigerated ice so it can actually be used a much longer time and it's more consistent to be able to use that, because we've looked at other facilities that don't, just rely on Mother Nature, and that becomes very problematic during certain winters. But this is it's strictly a roof structure with supports. There's no sides, there's no ends, so it's wide open. We've talked to inspections about what constitutes mass gatherings, and that's like 1,000 people and up, so we don't ever expect that kind of numbers. We've talked about the rules around the food trucks, and that works fine. So we are trying to cover all the bases from an activity standpoint.
So, and if I recall, we've been waiting for a very long time for the mixed-use component, really, of community in this development, and you've been, obviously growing residentially, and we had a few of the cornerstones. I think this really pulls a lot of the thoughts that I've heard of people desiring to see in that community together, and I think it's a great proposal in that regard. I'm glad the fire department was on board. And it's unique that you took the cars out, right? So you think of the Agunquits, the Kennybunk Ports, the center villages, and they all have to deal with the traffic passing right through the middle, and you're a little worried about your kids maybe darting out. This takes a lot of that away. I don't like to be the one to bring this up, but maybe while we're thinking, I know accessibility for the fire department's important, but what can we possibly incorporate into some sort of vehicular protection, so if somebody wanted to maliciously get in here during an event, additional bollards maybe that are removable for the fire department?
So fortunately or unfortunately, we've had that conversation because we live in a world where that's now a reality. So we wanted to have bollards here so somebody couldn't drive in and either by accident, intentionally or unintentionally, drive into the courtyard. And they ended up being okay with that, where they could come in here and drive back and then pull back out. We're looking at either a gate or adding maybe removable bollards here, and then possibly a gate in the alleyway between those two buildings so that somebody couldn't sneak around the backside. So that is a thought that's been going on, and so we're trying to find that balance between safety, keeping the fire department happy, and making it so that it doesn't look like you're locked in.
So that was one of my concerns that I had, and I'm glad you guys have it on your radar. Snow storage, there was quite a bit of illumination to really control the theming within the park. The parking lot didn't really have any details. I know it's still early. What would the illumination be out there, and snow storage, right? We have to try to find that balance.
Everybody should get a microphone. We're not ignorant towards it. We know that's an issue, and we plan on working with the civil engineer on that. We figured we'd work on the fun stuff first. Handle that stuff later.
There's a good chance, though, that inside the courtyard, you're probably looking at a situation where you're removing snow every single storm. I mean, small storms, you may be able to have small piles, but most storms, you're probably removing it from the center area.
Well, I guess my thought would be, we haven't really discussed this as a board often, but where a lot of this could be relatively seasonal, is there a section of parking that can be kind of designated as seasonal where you can use some snow storage and get the counts? Yeah,
and obviously this plan here is the same plan, except it shows all the parking. So there are certainly areas on the plan that we could do storage either on this site or somewhere within the Park North development.
That's all I had, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. First and foremost, this is a lovely mixed-use proposal. I really appreciate it and everything that it stands for in terms of Southern Maine. Exactly what was said about Kennebunk and kind of the center of that space. It really activates, and it's definitely something that Saco needs. And I guess my question is, in regards to the lease plan and the marketing efforts for these various retail spaces, I'm counting them. It's nearly probably like 15 or 20 different spaces that you'll be filling with various operators.
Yes.
And wanted to know a little bit more on kind of the intent of those types of users. Are they national brands, local brands? Will they be a mix? Just so that it ties back into the community of Saco, and yeah, just learning a little bit more about the operators for the
Certainly with the
project.
experience we've had at Dunstan Village, it was all local except for one tenant, and that was a national tenant on a small scale. Actually, that national tenant is the smallest tenant we have, ironically. So we're certainly open to, but are we looking to have a 20,000 square foot national tenant? We're not looking for that, and we would certainly be very picky as to if somebody like that came along, how would it change the feel, if it would change the feel of the rest. We don't want one tenant changing the entire feel of what we're trying to accomplish. But this two-story building, could that be one tenant? Possibly. So we're certainly not going to shy away from a national tenant, but my expectations are you're looking at local and regional tenants that would be in here. And the people we're already talking to, actually we've got somebody who would like to sign a lease dependent upon this getting approved. We're meeting somebody Sunday. We're starting to see, Friday, we're starting to see more interest from the smaller tenants, where we went a long time and it was always either nobody or it was somebody very large. Where now we're finally starting to see the smaller tenants come in, and that's because, as you've heard me say a ton of times, you got to have the residential first, and the commercial will follow. And that's what's happening. Between the residential we've done, the apartments beside Aquaboggin, and other residential that is happening, Dunstan right down the street, all of a sudden you're starting to see more and more of a need for these smaller type users and services.
Thank you. And one last question. So you're saying you're building a lot of flexibility in terms of various users and the sizes. So the 15 to 20 retailers may shrink down to 10 depending on how big of a user they are, more or less.
Yeah, and this is a case where take this building where right now physically it looks like it's 4 different spots, 4 or 5 different spots. That could be 2 people, that could be 1 person. But what we don't want to do, my own opinion, is have somebody come in and say, okay, I just want this as one big block and have it look like a large-scale retail. That's not what we're looking for. We really want to keep that older New England feel with the modern amenities and have the look. But if somebody wanted 2 or 3 spots, this person here, I actually think is going to be the first 2 spots in this building. So they have enough space to do what they're looking to do with maybe a little outside activity at the time. But we don't want one person coming in or one tenant coming in and driving the whole design in an opposite direction of what we're trying to accomplish.
Got it. And then one last question. In terms of the operating budget for the common areas, will that be billed back to the tenants?
Yeah,
Ideally,
most on the smaller tenants, what we find is what they're looking for is, instead of a true triple net lease, they're looking for a modified gross where pretty much everything, you figure out what the base year costs are, and all they're paying is their lease amount plus increases over the base amount. They don't want to have to pay all these different triple net. A larger tenant's used to something like that, but when you find the small to medium size, and I'm talking 500 square feet to 3,000 square feet, they're really looking for, I just want to pay one check and be done. So we try to incorporate all of those costs into what their lease is.
Thank you.
So the only question I had, because a lot of the other questions you've answered, is for the parking, I think it's a great idea to have all the parking off in a separate location from all these buildings, but have you thought much about how you're going to get the pedestrians from those cars far, far away safely to here?
The distance when, even if you were to park on the furthest parking spot in the parking lot, we're talking less than you would walk at most Hannaford's or Shaw's from the farthest point away to the facility. So this really isn't that far.
It might be not much farther than I parked my little pickup down to the main street, and I walked up here. That's about the distance. The other thing to note is there's 2 drop-offs, right? So there's this drop-off, so when mom and dad want to drop the kids off so they can have a date, they drop the kids off here, then they take off. Maybe they even go here to go out to eat, and the kids get dropped off here, but you can also have a drop-off over here. And then, of course, there's handicap spaces right out front. So for safety, if somebody has kids or somebody who's elderly, they can get dropped off right away, and then it's handicap. Then it's like in any other parking lot, but it's not a sea of parking that's a mile away. That's still actually deliberately not what this is.
Yeah, so whether you were getting brought in with somebody and dropped off and then they park the vehicle, or whether you're getting an Uber ride or something along that line, or whether you're riding your bike, we'll have bike racks around the facility.
Some of these newer shopping plazas, I guess, they make them really nice, but there's a parking aisle that goes between all the buildings. And to me, that seems a lot more dangerous. So you park your car, and then you get out, and then you're trying to Miranda between cars, and then you can't find the sidewalk, and then this guy's trying to park over here. What this is this is a parking lot, right? And you can see the plaza. And it's not between other buildings and, you know, all this stuff that's in your way, and you can make your way there, right? And then once you're there, you just have to fend for yourself and who's going to get to the ice cream first. And that's about it, okay?
Talk to us about signage. What do you envision for signage here? Because I'm thinking Elliot's talking about this building back here, that building's not visible from Route 1. So assuming
Are
they're
we
a
talking
retail
signage
establishment.
on the buildings within the development directory signs?
Both.
Yeah,
I
so
mean,
we
is-
do intend to, we're looking at the possibility of doing something on Route 1. Going back, yes, it would have been nice to keep a part on the Ziggy's parking lot or the bank. We may talk to the bank about doing a marquee sign, but I'm not sure that's the direction we want to go. As far as signage in the project, yes, we would certainly have directional signs, and Matt can attest to, we've talked many times about, we want to actually develop a sign ordinance, if you will, so that when somebody comes in, they say, no, I want to do this for a sign. No, it's going to have to fit a certain parameter. So when you walk through, it feels like it was thought out and they all blend together. So you don't have a, modern neon light shining in somebody's window and then something very old in somebody else's building. So we want it to be consistent.
I think the way to think about it is that just with the buildings and the materials, the landscaping, all those things that are going to go into this, at some point, Elliot's going to sit down with us and we'll resolve what a small town signage feels like. And that would be the criteria. Of course, they can have diversity of anything they want. They want gold letters or blue letters or whatever, but they can't, there's no neon strobe lights. It's supposed to feel comfortable. And frankly, if you're entering this place, you're going to see the front of the buildings, and each building's going to have its own character that'll have a sign in front of it that invokes you to want to know what's in it. So,
But if you think of, in Freeport, across the street from LL Bean is where the theater is.
Courtyard, yeah.
They call it the Crossing. If you walk through there, there again, the parking's in a garage or outside the building. So once you get in the plaza, there's no vehicles. That has signage, little pedestal-mounted signage, so you can see where you're going. It tells you where certain buildings are, certain stores are, if you're looking for a particular store to go shop at. So I can see when you first walk through us doing something along that line, along with signage on the buildings.
there's, you wouldn't be able to know, but he did it. guy over there. There's on occasion some kiosks, so this might be a little kiosk. And it sort of says what's over there past the rink. But even then, you know, the rink is transparent. So when you're down low, you can even see the buildings wherever you are, and so you won't get lost. Oh, this is yours.
Don't take my mic.
Any other thoughts from board members? I think this is a great concept. This is good. I think we can build upon what some other communities have done and learn from what doesn't work well from them, and I think we can apply it here. There's a good opportunity. I had the same question that Jim had about, you know, moving folks through the parking lot. I know it's not too far, but trying to avoid the chaos of in and out in cars, and even if it's just painted pathways on the pavement. It doesn't have to be raised sidewalks or esplanades or anything like that, but maybe just someplace there's that visual cue for drivers to say, all right, something's happening here, I can't park here, but that was one thought. The scale, the massing, the undulation here, I think is great. I know it's conceptual still, but I think I think the character, I like the Saco feel. One thought, one theme, I think is good while still providing, you know, identity at each building. I think there's a little bit too many thoughts, and I know it's conceptual and we're kind of playing with it and seeing what works. So that's great. I like moving around. One other thought was just making sure we have this connection, and I love the hub here, but making sure we can, you know, enter this building here from the parking lot. We can come right straight through, and there's this connection, and we can move through all the spaces. And one thought here was, and I'm not going to say a concern because it's all conceptual, but making sure that this doesn't feel like the back of the building. There's, what is it, the Dunkin' Donuts and the Firehouse and Biddeford, it's the back of the building.
Everybody refers to that one.
Everyone knows that. That's
It's hideous.
We definitely don't want
That's just
that.
plain awful.
Yeah, so this corner is fantastic. So I look at this and I see, you know, maybe you're coming in through here and you find your way through the building, and then you see doors and you see activity, you see something happen, you come out here, you know, can I come back over here and get back into one of these spaces? Is there more outdoor activity
Almost
here?
like a sidewalk connecting the front. But no, and Joe and Matt and myself have talked. One of the first things I told them, I said, I do not want that to look like the back of a building and it got forgotten. I need that to be a visual highlight as you're driving down Route 1, even if you're not stopping. I want it to look right. But I like the idea of, you're right, you walk out of one store and you can hit the back sidewalk, if you will. That may look like the front sidewalk from that visual point, and you can walk down that side and go back in another store.
Yeah, there's a little surprise once you get through, and this seems like another good corner for something to happen. I don't know if we want to make any connection here or something. I don't know how much involvement we want here quite yet, but sort of almost like there's every turn there's a little bit of a new experience, and you see something in a different way that you haven't seen before. The bathrooms, I think Jeff mentioned that was a question of mine, and Freeport down the elevator, down the back alley service corridor, that doesn't work. So,
Yeah, one of the ideas was in that tunnel there would be bathroom facilities, so that if somebody was here, you don't have to go in the store. You can just walk down the tunnel and hit the bathroom facility.
yeah,
Yes.
Exactly. This idea is of you walk around this, and it's an experience. You're like, I want to go over there. I want to hit that store, and next thing you know, you land there. But maybe it's a couple hours later after you've done something else. You've had a snack.
Right. The whole idea is, you know, sense of community, sense of place, and it's one of those things that's hard to explain. But when you're in it, you know, wow, this place feels right, and you end up wanting to go into multiple places that you maybe didn't intend to go in when you first decided to go to that location. I think of, in Boston, Faneuil Hall, a little bit different scale, but plenty of shops, and you go down there to walk around, what do? You end up walking into, 5, 6, 7 shops.
Yeah, and I think there's other little pieces and parts that we can work through. Thinking about the details already, like little podiums for the trucks to receive some power or whatnot. Are we going to have any electric charging opportunities, solar? I'm always the buzzkill. But, mechanicals we're going to put, I suspect there's going to be some rooftop mechanicals and how we screen those, how we work those screening elements into the architecture. I like the different roof shapes. It's all good.
Yeah, I think that our thought process was, let's start with, that half a dozen really big items. And if everybody hates it, doesn't think it works, then, okay, we're going down the wrong road. Once you start checking off those large items, then you can start working backwards towards how does trash work, how does emergency vehicles work, how do utilities work. We talked today after our meeting and stayed sitting downstairs, and Matt Orr from Sebago, we started talking about impervious areas and drainage. And so there are certainly still a lot of things for us to walk through. You're right, power and accessibility, water for the food trucks if we need it, if that's going to be more of a permanent setup. So certainly we fully intend to work down through that long list of items. And the idea of, is the concept, are we on the right path, if you will? And certainly from the focus group to the staff meeting to so far what I'm hearing here, yeah, there are certainly some things to still think about and work through, but it sounds like it's a very well-liked plan.
Yeah, it's a great start. It's fantastic. The material change, if it's brick, whatever it is, but it's clear, this is the excitement starting here. That as soon as your foot hits it, it's game on. We're having some fun. We're doing stuff. That activity, we're in it. So I think that's good. I think it's really good. Yeah.
I mean, you envision this being built in phases where, like, one of the sets of buildings would be built first, in which case, at what point is the rink being put in?
The quick thought, don't hold me to this, but if, assuming this works out, and I think it's going to, and it got approved, let's assume for a second it got approved exactly the way it is, we would build this loop road down through the parking lot in this parking right behind the building and do this first. And then we would start to move over. This building would be second, probably third and fourth. The center area, I think that would happen probably during the second building. The courtyard and the events are as important, if not more important, to this whole idea than the shops themselves. You can't just rely on the people shopping for there to be activity. It needs to be a place where, yeah, I just want to go hang out. I want to go, kids can ride their bike around here, or you want to go sit down and maybe there's a small music event or whatever it may be, and you may not do any shopping. But it turns into shopping after that happens. But it's an interesting place to sit and just hang out. It's got that sense of community. You'll see some of your existing neighbors. You'll see new neighbors. You'll meet new friends. So the event part of it would certainly be an important aspect. Matt and I talked today about, okay, how do we do this so that this person and these people move in, and now I've got heavy equipment tearing the site up again. So we talked about, okay, do we put at least all the foundations in and build that courtyard so at least the activity area and somebody's already working here. We've got the loop road, we've got access. So it's not just about what we think works from a building standpoint, but also each time we add a section, have we kept up on emergency services? Have we kept up on drainage? Have we kept on for pedestrian accessibility? How does it feel? It's obviously got to be a safe place to visit and walk around and hang out in. But for right now, we're thinking 1, 2, 3, 4, and the center courtyard would happen during the second building.
Yeah, no, that was my other question as well. What are we looking at for phases of construction? I'm going to steal Jeff's comment. Power. There's going to be a lot of power here.
Well, we're right on Portland Road, and we have three-phase power along Portland Road, and I think there's 4 or 5 poles literally in the distance of what you're standing in front of right now. So we expect, maybe this building comes off our existing, but the majority is going to come directly off Route 1. So it stays off our system because CMP is already looking at, we're getting close to already maxing out their line. And we're talking to them about the rear land and how we're doing that coming off Cascade Road. So we expect all of this, most of it, if not all of it, to come off the poles underground and service the building. So we're starting to think about, are there spaces we would need, like one massive mechanical room? Would there be one power room? Would there be one sprinkler room? How would fire alarm systems work? All those different things so that this doesn't feel like a hodgepodge when you're all done, and the fire department can't make sense of alarms, security can't make sense of alarms. So a lot of it, certainly a lot of issues to go through, but none of them that unsurmountable that we, can't make this look good and still service the need.
Yeah, those are all little details that we can work through. I think this big picture, the concept, sort of the phasing 1, 2. I like the idea of 1, 2, finishing the rest of the site, the heavy machinery, the equipment, and then from there it's sort of, light equipment building the rest of the buildings. That seems like a good
And
idea.
the other advantage that gives us is we can keep this whole area over here fenced off, so this can be a construction access and keep it fenced off so people aren't walking into a construction area or driving their car into a construction area. So visual presentation from day one till it's all built is going to be a huge issue.
Sure. Yeah, and landscaping wise, these big guys here in the front, they look great, and we know the reality of we're going to have to balance, I think, some of that landscaping here is, seeing some significance here, not 2-inch caliper trees. We have to think about that long-term big picture and how the whole thing comes together.
Yeah, and we, at staff, Parks and Rec talked about, where you've got a big courtyard, could we look at shade trees? So it's those little details that, trying to make everybody happy and pulling it all back together.
Yeah, this is a great start. It's a great start. We've given you loads. You've been before us. You know a lot of the questions that we like to ask. So I think this is a great start. I think it's a really good start.
I think you can have off-site planning board meetings up here.
We'll have to talk to our director.
Yeah.
Yeah. Any other thoughts from board members? All right.
Thank you.
Well, I mean, I think we nailed it, right? Where we like the concept, we like the feel, right? And for me, I see this, and I constantly get, hey, let's sit out on the patio for dinner tonight. And I'm like, I've been in the sun all day, but I see that, and we see our community likes it here on Main Street. They have sidewalk seating. It makes it tough for the sidewalk. Here, we don't worry about that. You've taken that vehicular aspect out of the equation, right? We know it works at Run of the Mill. Their patio is full, right? So I see some of the mixed use, and if you're going to attract those tenants, you kind of need that atmosphere built in, right? And that's, I think what's so important with this is that, it's going to be difficult for phasing to fill your tenants, but that the overall vision, I think, is going to be very successful. That's what our community wants right now. So
Yes.
I think it's, that the overall picture is great. They'll work out all the little details as they work their way down.
Great. Thank you.
All right, moving to our next workshop item, we have item 1B, and this is our Technical Design and Construction Standards Manual. Anything to add, Emily?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So we have been working on this internally as city staff. This is a document that in 2021 came to you all for the first time that we ever had this doc, so like the original adoption of the document in 2021, which was an effort with city engineer Joe Laverrier. I worked on it. Our previous planner, Isabel, had worked on it, and as well, Bob Hamblin. And now we're at the point where we need to make updates to the document. There are some things that we really think are important to add. Also want to get some specifications written down before our city engineer retires. So we're in a good spot to have everything in one location. And then we, from the planning team, added draft conditions of approval. And then one of the things that we were asked to do was to compile all as-built requirements in one location. So we are working toward that. I know that some of the as-built drawings may need a little, the as-built sample drawings may need a little bit of work, but that gives you a sample of what we're working toward to finalize that. And so at this point, there are some reserved sections. We do envision coming back for some amendments probably in 2026, but at this point, we're in a good spot putting down on paper what we should have in a tech spec book today. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Emily. Board members, any questions or thoughts on this draft? Jeff?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As you guys know, I was on the board back when this was first brought forward. I think it's fantastic. I think our community really sets a tone with a great document. Being in a technical field, it's always great to have documents like this to reference as you work with the city. I think the original was good, and this makes it even better. I had a couple of questions, though, that I think that we should maybe just kick back to staff before it goes to council. Section 6.1.1, it's kind of the opening. The wording sounds very awkward. It's almost like this, it should be a standard, or it's saying that it shall include all the labor. It almost sounds like it was an excerpt from a proposal. So I think if we just kind of work on the opening of that one to be very clear of what our standard is setting forth. I think there's another typo in 6.8.2. It's talking about how the grinder pump assembly is connected. And it reads something where the grinder impeller assembly shall be fastened to the motor shaft by pins. Keys will not be acceptable. I think this supposed to be that, or that keys are not acceptable. I think there needs to be a little edit there so that is corrected from a technical point. I wanted to kind of bring up Section 7 was added, which is municipal street lighting. I think there might be a little bit of an oversight on that. I think the overhead portion that's on utility poles is phenomenal. It's great. Because the city has to kind of initiate all movements with Central Maine Power on that. It's part of the agreement. It's part of how they get added to your inventory and your billing, filing of the Exhibit B. So having an applicant that's before us, that's going on a pole, having them basically work with the city and paying the city to file that application, get the light installed, and getting it on that inventory, I think is spot on. It's very expeditious that way. However, when we get to the underground section, I feel like maybe there was a little bit of a misunderstanding of your Section 53 municipal agreement. It sounds like you want to go back to the older style of feeding each individual light from a CMP transformer. When you do that, it's going to create more delays because then you have to, even if you have an approved contractor and there's a problem with the fusing, you have to coordinate with a line crew because they don't allow their approved contractors to open the transformers. So delaying and repair is very cumbersome. I think if we stayed with what we had before, with a true secondary metered system, you would find it much more expeditious. Our city electrician or any contracted licensed electrician could then work on them, have full control over isolation of the power sources and lockout tagout, as well as any specialized contractor. So I don't know if you want to touch base, we can talk about it, but I think that would be much more beneficial for all of the applicants before us, for control of the installation, as well as citizens for the ability to have them maintained in the future. And you would still get your rate, and you can still have it on your key account. It would just be a metered service. So I think we should revisit that before council. But other than that, I had one comment about the light pole bases. We have a detail in figure 1. I think it's 7-1. I think we should go a little further and give the spelled out like bolt pattern diameter, because we've told every applicant, it's clearly stated that the poles must be purchased from the city. We know which make and model they will be for uniformity. That seems to be the biggest challenge in our industry, is getting precast products that are cast appropriately. If we included those details, that way the contractor could just send it to their precast vendor saying, this is exactly what I need. It would eliminate a lot of problems after install, as well as possibly making a universal base that maybe has 4 exits, each at 90 degrees, and just say, we don't really care where you're installing it. We'll have future access in the future. It's not much money to change the precast. So if we're going to have that document, I think making it as universal and clear as possible would be great. Those would be some little bit of improvements. But other than that, I'm in full support. I think the staff did great work, and I'm just proud to be working with a city that has this type of information to give to the developers. So thank you.
Great, thank you, Jeff. Any other thoughts from board members? Did you capture all of that?
I did, and so we have a public hearing for the planning board scheduled for this on August 19th. So thank you for the comments, and I'll work to address what I can before August 19th. Thank you.
Thank you, Emily. All right, any other thoughts or questions on that item? All right, well, we'll move to open our meeting here. Ladies and gentlemen, esteemed members of the planning board and valued community representatives, I welcome you all to this evening's assembly of the Saco Planning Board. As chairman, it is my privilege to convene this gathering dedicated to the thoughtful planning and development of our community. Today, we come together with a shared commitment to shaping the future of our city in a manner that reflects our values, respects our heritage, and fulfills the needs of our residents both now and in the future. As we engage in our deliberations, let us remember the profound impact these decisions will have on the lives of all, keeping in mind we're residents like you. It is our duty to maintain transparency, fairness, and inclusivity in our proceedings, ensuring that the voices of all are heard and respected. Together, we must embrace the responsibility entrusted to us by our community, working diligently and thoughtfully to chart a course that fosters growth, prosperity, and harmony. With that, I would like to call this meeting of the Tuesday, August 12th, 2025 Saco Planning Board to order. I look forward to the productive discussions and meaningful outcomes that lie ahead. Thank you. With us this evening, myself, Matt Provenzel, the chair of the board, and to my left, I have our vice chair, Joyce Leary Clark, planning board members Jeff Brucho, Camille White, and Catherine Polini, along with Jim Moyer here to my right. He is here, though, the gap. He's very important. Our planning board member, Carrie Lynn Lane, is unable to meet with us this evening. She has an excused work absence. And then with that, we have our staff members here this evening. Lisa Harmon, our planning compliance manager. We have our city intern, James Patefield. As always, Emily Cole-Prescott, our planner, and our fearless leader from Ward 5, Phil Hatch. So with that, our first item on our agenda is our review of the July 15th, 2025 meeting minutes. Do board members have any questions, comments, or edits?
Mr. Chair, I would move to accept the July 15th, 2025 meeting minutes as drafted.
Second.
Thank you for the motion, Jeff, and the second, Jim. Any additional comments, discussion? All right, those in favor, Jim?
Yes.
Joyce?
Yes.
Jeff?
Yes.
Camille?
Yes.
Catherine? That was an abstention, Lisa, if you, okay. Might have to drag that mic a little bit closer. Thank you. Great. Our
Would you
next,
like to cast your vote?
I will vote yes as well. Thank you. 5-0, 1 extension. Our next item on our agenda this evening is our public comment period. This is an opportunity of anyone from the public or any residents to come before the board and ask questions, discuss general planning matters. We will collect those comments and we will address them as necessarily and accordingly. So if anyone would like to come before the board, please come to the podium and we will take your comments. All right, and with that, our next item are public hearing guidelines. This is a document that the board, along with staff, put together, and this is something that we have digitally and hard copy at the back of the auditorium. If anyone has any questions, please let us know, and we will do our best to answer those. From there, our first item on our applications for review and public hearings this evening is item 7A. This is 439 Main Street. This is map 33, lot 25-1, and this is a proposal to convert existing space to affordable housing dwelling units. And my apologies, before I did that, I wanted to introduce everyone to our new planning board member, Catherine Paolini. And she is joining us, and Catherine has caught up, from what I understand, on all of the items on the agenda this evening. And Catherine, are you ready, willing, and prepared to participate to your discretion, or?
Yes. Oh. Sorry.
It's okay. There's a
yes.
learning curve.
Yeah, I've watched all the previous videos and read all the documents. Is that better? Can you hear me now? Okay. And I don't think I'll vote on any final decisions, but yeah, I'm ready to participate.
Great, thank you. So with that, this item 439 Main Street, we have a continued application review with us this evening for a site plan review. And again, this is a request to convert existing space into affordable housing dwelling units within the medium density residential zoning district. Emily, do you have anything to add on this item?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. The last time that the board met on this item, the takeaway was that we really need to get the affordability restrictions clarified. Since then, the plan has been clearly modified to be for rental units only. So the applicant would be required to return to the planning board for a site plan amendment if at such time in the future they ever wanted to convert this to affordable housing for sale. So we've worked through that. The last piece of it was working with the city attorney, and in this case we used consulting city attorney Bernstein Schur, Grady Burns, who often helps us on land use related matters. And I had them put together an affordable housing agreement. Unfortunately, the one in your packet, when I reviewed it with a more thorough eye, there were clauses in there about sale, and I thought that would be rather confusing. So in your after-the-fact packet is an updated document which clearly has the sale pieces removed. That was the direction I gave to our attorney, to remove anything that's relative to a sale, and indicate that if anyone ever wants to go to sell this property under the affordable housing restrictions, they'd have to come back to get a site plan amendment review with the planning board. So this is a good step forward. I think that this does resolve the questions about rental versus ownership or for sale property. It does resolve what we're going to put on the registry legally as far as alerting anyone about this approval. And then your condition, the other piece that you had asked me to finalize was having the draft findings and draft conditions reviewed with our attorney. That piece has also been completed. I did speak with him over the phone today, and he had one comment, which was under the conditions of approval, the bullet to under number 5, the bullet to finalize condominium documentation with affordable housing restrictions should be probably stricken, because number 12 and 13 cover that, as well as the agreement that was drafted. However, not a big deal if it remains in, it's just slightly repetitive. So those are the updates from my end, and happy to answer any questions. Oh, there is one more thing from a compliance perspective. We were asked about how this will be tracked. I did reach out to the State Housing Office several times in the last month. I have not heard back from them, but this, we have created an internal SOP. I'm happy to share it another night, but we have determined how we will be tracking this internally and how we will be monitoring it on an annual basis to make sure that the restrictions are kept in place. We've also alerted the applicant to the fact that they will be required to do this reporting on an annual basis, and alerted them to the fact that they will have to determine how to store sensitive information that we will need to view on an annual basis. So I believe we have covered it for what we have on the books for an ordinance and for what state law provides. Thank you.
Thank you, Emily. Board members, any questions for Emily on that update and any information in our after-the-fact packet? Jim?
I'm glad the city attorney revised that affordable housing agreement, because when I reviewed it, Emily, I was confused as to what, because there were references to sales, and we had already discussed how complicated that could be. So I think the most recent affordable housing agreement makes perfect sense. And just looking at that, the conditions of approval, that second bullet point under number 5, I would leave it in there simply because that it seems to say something a little different than 12 and 13 or 11. I think it simply directs the applicant to work closely with the city staff and attorney. So I think, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, I think that could stay. But otherwise, I think both the findings of fact and conditions of approval make perfect sense, and I think they're complete.
Thank you, Jim. Any other questions for Emily? Jeff?
Thank you. I as well had picked up on that document, and I was very confused, so thank you for getting that straightened out. I do have a question, though, and I don't want to put any of our fellow board members on the spot, but maybe if we all could look at the Affordable Housing Implementation Reporting Plan. Under yearly reporting, it says the condominium unit owner or owners of 439 Main Street will be required to document and report the tenant's yearly anticipated household income. probably because my mind was very focused on not having multiple owners of individual units, does everyone feel like that is just saying that if the entity that owns the entire complex is more than one individual, is that the plural sense? Or is it in the plural sense that they're still allowing individual unit owners?
I guess I read that as it creates a avenue for any scenario. If it's the one, if there's an event where one of these are sold, I think that still covers it. I think it's as a whole for the property, it needs to be a collective reporting. Is that?
Well, I thought we were very clear that we were intending that all of the units would be held under one ownership and then rented out. And I just wanted to make sure that this wasn't an avenue for individual sale of individual units again.
No, they would all, sorry, Mr. Chair.
Yes, please.
Yes, they would all be held as rentals. And where was that, may I just ask? Was it on the,
So the new annual, the Affordable Housing Implementation and Reporting Plan that was revised on July 25th, 2025.
oh, okay, so not in the agreement from our attorney?
No.
So if you look at Exhibit B in the agreement from our attorney, we're actually going to have an annual certification of residency. So the applicant may have submitted a reporting plan, but we're going to have our own standard forms, reports, and see all this ourselves. And there'll be a condition that that this is restricted to rentals.
And Mr. Chair, I mean, I read it to mean that there could be an owner or owners of the building. I mean, it's certainly possible that there would be plural owners. So I think that's the question you were asking. Yeah, not that it would be multiple condominium owners, but there might be multiple owners of the building.
Correct, yeah.
Right, we or I, in Exhibit B, he's showing me. We or I declare. Yeah, I mean, there is a little, there's one typo anyway in the Affordable Housing Agreement. Under default of mortgage, section 5.2.3, which talks about termination upon foreclosure, it refers to the agreement terminating subject to section 5.3.4, but there isn't a section 5.3.4. So I think that's probably just another leftover from the prior, and I assume that this would be gone over with a fine-tooth comb before it was actually signed.
Yes, I did not give our attorney many days to redraft it, so it will be finalized and the format will be clarified for anything outstanding like that, but that's a very good comment. Thank you.
Any other questions for Emily at this time? And Emily, the applicant is with us this evening and has a copy of this most recent agreement and has reviewed it to some degree?
Yes, this was sent to the applicant. I'm not sure if they've had a lot of time to review, but the applicant should be here with us, this evening.
Correct, yeah. I reviewed it, agree with everything, and in line pretty much what we spoke about for the last few months in regards to the project, so I'm good with it. Yep.
Okay, great, thank you. Any other thoughts or questions from board members? So Emily's given us some draft findings of fact to review and conditions of approval as we previously mentioned here a bit ago.
Excuse me, Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Sorry. I'm just wondering, there was one comment from Water Resource Recovery Department. I don't know if that was taken care of. Needing updated square footage of the apartments for the impact fee. Is that an old comment?
I will check our iWork system. I believe that it has been resolved.
Thank you, Emily. We have a condition of approval that's going to address all comments from city staff and such, so I think we're okay there. So as a reminder, we closed our public hearing at our last discussion on this item. So with that, any questions, concerns on any of the findings of fact or conditions of approval?
Mr. Chair, where I like to go through things in sections, I think I've reviewed the draft findings of facts, and I would make a motion that we adopt the draft findings of facts as drafted for 439 Main Street.
Second.
Thank you for the motion, Jeff, and the second, Jim. Any additional discussion on the motion? All right, those in favor, Jim?
Yes.
Joyce?
Yes.
Jeff?
Yes.
Camille?
Yes.
Catherine?
Abstain.
I'll vote yes as well. Motion passes 5-0 with one abstention.
Mr. Chair, I'll move that we adopt the conditions of approval for 539 Main Street as drafted.
Thank you for the motion, Jim.
I'll second.
Second by Joyce, thank you. Any additional discussion on accepting the conditions of approval as drafted? All right, those in favor, Jim?
Yes.
Joyce?
Yes.
Jeff?
Yes.
Camille?
Yes.
Catherine?
Abstain.
I vote yes as well. Motion passes 5-0 with one abstention.
Mr. Chair, I'll move that we grant site plan approval for 439 Main Street, map 33, lot 25-1.
I will second.
Thank you for the motion, Jim, and the second, Jeff. Any additional discussion on the motion? All right, those in favor, Jim?
Yes.
Joyce?
Yes.
Jeff?
Yes.
Camille?
Yes.
Catherine?
Abstain.
I vote yes as well. Motion passes 5-0 with one abstention. Emily, did that cover everything on this item?
Thank you.
Great. Thank you.
Appreciate it, thank you.
All right, our next item on our agenda this evening is item 7B. This is 5 Birch Street, and this is map 26, lot 85. And this is a conditional use to establish a home occupation. This is a continued public hearing and application review. And this is for a Reiki studio within an existing single-family dwelling within the medium-density residential. Anything to add, Emily?
Our assistant planner, Shannon Chisholm, has been working on this proposal. We do have draft findings and draft conditions because it is a conditional use review. We recommend that the board open its hearing, hear from residents before going to the next step. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Emily. Board members, any questions for Emily at this time? All right, do we have the applicant with us this evening? Great, anything to add beyond Emily's report, or do you want to give a short
When I was
update, or-
here last time, you guys had asked about the measurements for the driveway. Shannon came out with somebody from the Department of Works, I think, Public Works.
Public Works, sure.
And they measured the driveway, so I think Shannon was submitting that information to you. It gave plenty of room for us to be able to park multiple cars in the driveway. And then the other thing was the hours on the weekends, and I sent an email with that information also.
Okay, great, thank you. Jim?
I don't know if I saw that memo about the hours of operation, but can you tell us what you were planning?
The hours, so it's by appointment only, but the hours would be available from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. on Saturday and/or Sunday.
Just
Both.
those
No, both days.
9 a.m. to 6 p.m.?
Yes.
Both days? Mm-hmm. So you won't be having any services performed there Monday through Friday?
Oh, those hours were presented earlier in
Okay.
the presentation. It was just that you guys needed clarification for the weekend.
Okay.
So there, I work a full-time job, so it would be evening hours during the week, and then weekends would be available.
And I don't mean to be too
You're fine.
persistent about this, but for the evening hours, Monday through Friday, are you looking at like 6 to 9, or 6 to 8, or 5 to 8, or 4 to 8, or, I don't know.
I don't remember what I put on the application, but it would be after, 6 o'clock till like 9 o'clock would be the latest. It would be like one appointment in an evening. I wouldn't do more than one.
And just a couple other questions, if it's okay. You're not going to be changing the landscaping
No.
around your building at all?
No.
And do you expect that the sort of home occupation you'll have would in any way affect your neighbors in terms of noise or sound or anything like that?
There will be no noise, no sound, no interference with anybody.
Okay. That's all I had. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Jim. Any other questions from board members? Well, thank you for pulling this up, Emily.
We'll make sure that this gets in the more section of the packet for tonight.
Great, thank you. So 4 parking spaces for the business, 2 for the home, based on the size of the driveway.
Correct.
And, Mr. Chair, if I could, we're looking what is showing up on the screen here,
Oh, the email that I sent, okay. Yep.
and that talks about hours of operation like 10 to 6.
10 to 6, yes.
So that's what you're looking for?
That was my mistake, yes.
Okay.
Sorry.
No, that's fine. I just wanted to make sure I understood, that's all.
I don't want to start too early on a weekend.
I don't blame you. I'm all set, thank you.
Great, thank you, Jim. Any other thoughts or questions from board members? All right, so we still have our public hearing scheduled for this item this evening.
Mr. Chair, I move to open the public hearing.
I will second.
Thank you for the motion, Joyce, and the second, Jeff. Any additional discussion on opening a public hearing for this item? All right, those in favor, Jim?
Yes.
Joyce?
Yes.
Jeff?
Yes.
Camille?
Yes.
Catherine?
Yes.
I vote yes as well. Motion passes 6-0. If anyone is with us this evening to speak on this item, please come to the podium, state your name and address for the record. We will collect comments and respond at the conclusion.
Mr. Chair, seeing no one coming forward, I'd move to close the public hearing.
I will second.
Thank you for the motion, Joyce, and the second, Jeff. Any additional discussion on the motion to close the public hearing? All right, those in favor, Jim?
Yes.
Joyce?
Yes.
Jeff?
Yes.
Camille?
Yes.
Catherine?
Yes.
I vote yes as well. Motion passes 6-0 to close the public hearing. Back to the board. Any final thoughts or questions? We have a few findings of fact to make a finding on, I believe. And any questions, comments, or edits on the conditions? Jeff?
So I had noted that, yes, we have to make the finding on the hours of operation for conditions of approval 6. Just wanted to talk, I mean, that we're asking for weeknight hours until 9 PM. I just wanted, would we need to check our ordinance about, I know it's not really noise. Just want to make sure that we're all on the same page, that that's an acceptable hour for ending in a residential neighborhood.
I mean, I don't know if the city has any particular regulation on that, but based on the questions I asked the applicant, it doesn't, there's not likely to be any significant noise coming from the building, and so the worst thing you would have is someone getting in their car and driving away. So I don't see that as a problem.
Yeah, I agree. I think given the fact that the business is conducted indoors during hours where people are generally moving around within a neighborhood. And it sounds like most of these appointments are one-on-one, so you're talking one car coming to a home in the evening.
That's correct.
I don't see an issue.
Yeah, it would be one-on-one. I do work a weekday job too, so the chances of an appointment ending at 9 o'clock are high, not high. I just wanted to make sure that I had that just in case.
You mean they might end earlier than 9?
Yes.
Gotcha.
I'd like to be in bed.
Yeah, so I think we could safely put in number 6, the condition of approval, 6 to 9 weekdays and 10 to 6 weekends.
And I think we need to, on findings of fact, we need to deal with number 3, landscaping, and number 4, detrimental effect on the use and peaceful enjoyment of abutting properties. I mean, I've seen from prior sketches, seen the landscaping that exists, and it looks, to me, adequate to provide protection to neighboring properties. So I would suggest that we eliminate the sentence under number 7.3 and instead insert language that existing landscaping and buffers provide adequate protection to neighboring properties from any possible detrimental features of this proposal. And then on number 4, I would suggest we eliminate that sentence and instead insert the proposed use being primarily indoors, and based upon the testimony of the applicant, will not have a significant detrimental effect to abutting properties as a result of noise, vibration, or otherwise.
Thank you, Jim, for those edits. Any thoughts, discussion items on those edits, concerns?
Mr. Chair, then I'll move that we adopt the findings of fact for 5 Birch Street, map 26, lot 85.
Thank you.
I will second.
Thank you for the motion, Jim, and the second, Jeff. Any additional discussion on the motion to adopt the findings of fact as edited? All right, those in favor, Jim?
Yes.
Joyce?
Yes.
Jeff?
Yes.
Camille?
Yes.
Catherine?
Abstain.
I vote yes. Motion passes 5-0 with 1 abstention.
And Mr. Chair, I'll move that we adopt the conditions of approval for 5 Birch Street as edited, particularly number 6 with the hours of operation. I think Joyce indicated what those were, 10 to 6 on Saturday and Sunday, and 6 to 9 Monday through Friday.
Second.
Thank you for the motion, Jim, and the second, Joyce. Any additional discussion on the motion to adopt the conditions of approval as edited? All right, those in favor, Jim?
Yes.
Joyce?
Yes.
Jeff?
Yes.
Camille?
Yes.
Catherine?
Abstain.
I vote yes as well. Motion passes 5-0 with 1 abstention.
Mr. Chair, I'll move that we grant conditional use approval for 5 Birch Street, map 26, lot 85.
I will second.
Thank you for the motion, Jim, and the second, Jeff. Any additional discussion on the motion? All right, those in favor, Jim?
Yes.
Joyce?
Yes.
Jeff?
Yes.
Camille?
Yes.
Catherine?
Abstain.
I vote yes as well. Motion passes 5-0 with 1 abstention. Emily, did that capture everything on this item?
Yes, thank you.
Great, thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right, our next item on our agenda this evening is item 7C. This is 109 Main Street, map 37, lot 5-1, and this is a proposal to upgrade and expand the Factory Island substation, and this is presented by Central Maine Power. This is a public hearing and continued application review for site plan, and this is within the Saco Island zoning district. Emily, anything to add?
Thank you. So we have received comment responses from the applicant, and there was a review memo from City Engineer Adam Bliss in response to that. There were some responses after that, which are included in the after-the-fact correspondence packet here. Our memo was drafted on everything we received, obviously, in the packet up until the date of the packet going out, so that's what we based our review on. As far as the site walk, the board had its site walk on July 15th. Anything that you want to debrief about that would be helpful. There are some items here that we're recommending through the draft findings as well as draft conditions. Of course, we recommend that you open the hearing, hear from residents before you move to the next step. Additionally, we have highlighted a few things on our memo, which is coordination with the Downtown Gateway Project and landscaping review. We've also talked with the applicant about the sidewalk easement and further coordination on that, which has been captured as a draft condition of approval. And then, as I said, we have drafts available when you are ready. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Emily. Board members, any questions for Emily? All right, and we have the applicant with us this evening as well. Does anyone like to start?
Hi, everyone. Kara Moody from Stantec. I really don't have too much to add. Emily provided a good recap. We have responded to 2 rounds of comments received from the Department of Public Works, the most recent of which we just provided a response earlier today. Those last few comments were pretty minor, mostly just acknowledging some of their recommendations and then providing a revised site plan that included a planning board signature block. And then we've been also coordinating with the electrical inspector. He has the plan set and is reviewing that so we can get the electrical permit needed. And we're also coordinating with the Department of Public Works on the traffic control plan. They provided some comments on that plan. We had submitted it a few weeks ago. We got comments from them. We have incorporated their comments and provided a revised and hopefully final traffic control plan specifically for the first stage of CMP's work that they're hoping to conduct this fall. So we're just waiting for them to sign off on that, but anticipate that to be the case since we have addressed all the comments that they provided. I think that's it on my end. Do you have anything else you want to add to that?
I do. Hi, Jack Wu, Manager of Environmental Permitting with CMP. The question I have to the board, or I guess maybe to Emily, is the conditional approval. Item number 15. We did talk about the sidewalk easement, and I mentioned to you folks doing our sidewalk that that's something needs to be taken up on with our real estate group. That's not something that, as a permitting manager, I can't decide. I think it's several pay grade higher than our unit manager as well in terms of the approval of an easement. So the way it is written indicate that the financial guarantee fee will not be released unless the sidewalk easement is executed with the city of Saco. That is something that I don't believe we could agree to at this moment.
Okay. And I'm just going back to your staff memo, Emily, about the 30-foot recommended sidewalk easement. So is the status, Emily, still in the works, or it has been agreed upon and we're that's just a concept right now still?
So what we had requested was that the applicant look into it and return to us with clarification on what that sidewalk easement could entail. We usually ask for 30 feet, happy to discuss going to a smaller width if necessary. And then I had a conversation with Kara on before this memo was going out to review the draft conditions, and then she was going to bring all that back to CMP and confirm. So I guess there's question on the sidewalk easement that hasn't been answered.
Right. So I could respond to that. So that is on me.
Sure.
The response memo that I provided to Emily and her staff, I did submit that late. I indicated in my response that the city needs to coordinate with our real estate group. It wouldn't be something that is coordinated, or the communication, the discussion regarding the sidewalk easement would not be myself or any other project team.
Sure, separate.
That's not something that we could provide a response to.
Sure, understand. Okay.
Mr. Chair, if I may.
Jeff, yeah.
So my question is that I understand and respect that you can't make a response to that request, but can you initiate the communication to your real estate group saying, hey, the town is looking at this as being one of the benefits that could be beneficial for approving this project? Can you initiate that so they're speaking to planning staff to see if that might be agreeable?
So yes, I've done that on my end.
Okay.
So our manager of our real estate group he's aware of the request, I guess, from the city. And I take it he has not communicated that? Okay. So he has not reached out to the city, has not reached out to Emily and her staff. But certainly, I'll bring that to his attention again.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Mr.
Jim.
Chair, if I could just ask Emily a question. Emily, a 30-foot wide easement, is that fairly common for the city to request? I mean, that wide an easement?
We usually start with 30 feet, but like I said, we're happy to coordinate with the real estate group if 30 feet is too wide, and it is pretty wide in that area. So we're happy to go smaller width. We just need to make sure we get the discussion started.
Because I was, the reason I ask is because this hill is pretty steep, right? All the way up there, and we start carving 30 feet out, and CMP might be a little concerned about structures or other features of their facility that could be harmed by, too much of the hill cutaway for a sidewalk.
So from a design perspective, you're correct. We have thought about that in terms of how to stabilize that site, that bank, if the city were to install some type of sidewalk.
Yeah.
But again, actual agreement will not come from the permanent group or the project team, so.
Oh, I understand. Sure. That makes sense. Mr. Chair, I just have a couple other questions for the applicant.
Yes, please.
So I was just looking at some of the draft findings of fact, which we'll need to approve to approve the project. And one of the ones that was one of the ones we have to complete is compatibility with neighboring buildings. So I understand that you already have all sorts of structures up there on the top of the hill. And I saw from the design, and I'm sorry I missed the site walk, but it looks like you'll be expanding some of those structures for the increased capacity. Is that right?
That's correct, yes.
And any of the structures that you intend upon building, the additional structures, are they going to be of the same sort of size and scope as to what exists there today, or will they be like twice as tall, or
They will be similar in height.
similar in height?
But the bump out, one of the transformer and the fence will be closer to Main Street, closer to the road.
I saw that. Yes, thank you. Another question was off-site impacts. I mean, I've never heard of any noise, vibration, fumes, odors, dust, or other sorts of off-site impacts that the structures that exist there today cause anyone around them. Are you aware of with these new structures you're building, that they might cause any of those harms to neighboring properties, or is it going to be the same sort of setup that you have today in terms of how they'll operate?
It would be very similar. So probably what you're referring to is what's known as EMF, electromagnetic frequency, and that is even present in like microwaves, cell phones, TV, but it's not going to cause it to increase by any substantial amount by any means. Not, at least not to the harmful level, as far as we're aware of.
And lastly, one of the other factual findings we'll need to make eventually is audio-visual buffer. Now, I understand that in terms of landscaping, the proposal is to dedicate a certain amount to the city to enhance landscaping rather than you creating your own landscaping plan. Is that right?
That's correct, right. So we'll keep some of the, I guess, the existing vegetation, which is really sumac and some shrubs, but we will not, our intention is not to plant anything but to fund the city's gateway project. That's correct.
So whatever the city decides to do with those funds to enhance the hillside and landscape your building from, say, Main Street, you're fine with that, with the use of those funds for that purpose?
That is correct, yes.
Okay, that's all I had. Thank you very much.
Great, thank you, Jim. Jeff?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I guess I'd like a little bit of clarification. Maybe Emily could touch base. It says that there, one of the terms of conditions is $150,000 going towards the Gateway project. Sounds like Jim's interpretation is a little bit different than mine, that some of that would be going towards landscaping and beautification of the area. I've kind of interpreted that that Gateway project is basically a traffic pattern lane change improvements. And that was a little bit troubling to me in the sense that, you know, we have an applicant that's coming before us that may have a total of 6 vehicle movements in one day. There's basically nobody at this substation under normal operation, right? We know that there'll be a construction plan, but afterwards there's very little traffic at this substation. And why are they contributing so much to the Gateway project? And I mean, if they're okay with it, it's one thing. I guess I view the long-term benefit to the city is having access or availability to that sidewalk. Because as we're watching some of this play out, I know I've had concerns. I've been very vocal about this. And now we're starting to do some lane markings and shifting over there. And I think that that sidewalk is going to be a very important issue in the future. And this is a great opportunity, if they're agreeable, to get us some rights to be able to develop a sidewalk in the future. Because I truly think once we put that traffic signal in, it's going to become an issue. So I was just wondering, is that $150,000 supposed to be for vegetation? Because we'll still have to coordinate with them, because whatever our landscape architect plans, we have to be careful of clearances and being under the footprint of their existing lines. So is that what the money is intended for, was for the beautification of that site, or is it mostly going to be for road shift and improvements of the road surface?
Mr. Chair, would you like me to address that?
If you could, best you can.
So we're very grateful for the applicants. They proposed that amount. That was something that they brought forward in their application. We did ask to have conversations about the downtown gateway plan and coordination, mostly around the landscaping features, because we're going to landscape and beautify the hill as part of the downtown gateway project. So it's not separated. As far as the downtown gateway project includes improvements to the whole area, both the roadway and all the landscaping on York Hill. And overall beautification on York Hill could include signage and other things. So that is where the conversation originated from. We did try to have the coordination meeting, but unfortunately the city was not as far along as the applicants were with their project, so we couldn't give them a lot of input other than the concept plan. And so they came back and offered the $150,000 in lieu of the landscaping coordination, downtown gateway coordination items. So the one thing left that the city has asked for along our travels is the easement considerations. And again, certainly can go a lot, you know, we can work on details of that with the applicants, whatever coordination team, the real estate team with the applicant. But that is how the $150,000 came about. It was not, we did not ask for that dollar amount from city staff. That was offered.
Yeah, sorry, if I may.
Do you have any last?
Well, I guess I was just trying to, wherever the amount came from, where it was intended to be spent, because I too, like Jim, when I'm trying to do my criteria, and we're looking at visual impacts and buffering, and it's not very often we have an applicant that just says, well, I'm not planning anything, and here's some money, do what you want around my space. It's a struggle. I understand they have a very difficult task ahead of them because of all the requirements to try to hide and buffer this, given where it is on the hill. But if the site walk was very informative, and some of their pictures that we requested at the site walk show that we're not really changing much of what we can see from street view. The height of their existing structures isn't really changing. It's shifting a little bit, but their switch yard's getting bigger. So I guess, you know, the upper Main Street view is what I kind of had concerns with, and is it something that they could put, you know, like a facade, a blast wall facade? If you had saw the architecture of that existing switch house, it's really beautiful, as if we could have a fake front to buffer some of that, maybe rather than the money going towards the Gateway project. It's, you know, how are we as board members confidently checking off that we did due diligence as far as the buffering within reason? And that's just where my thoughts were, trying to understand the value that was being applied. So I guess that's all I have for questions right now.
Anything to add? Go ahead.
Right, can I just provide some,
Sure.
a little bit more detail
Yes,
in regards
please.
to that conversation we had with the city staff? So we realized that for our substation, that there are landscape planning, there's screening that's sort of required. So when we reached out to Emily and her staff regarding what is needed in our portion, the substation area, it was brought to our attention about the city's gateway plan in the future. So we initially wanted to basically be, again, good neighbor gesture. We will plant whatever the city has, whatever the city's vision is for that site slope, for our portion. That was our initial plan. However, again, the city was not quite there yet. So again, yes, we just randomly threw out, how about $150,000 toward the city's funding toward that plan, that the city could do whatever they would like in terms of that site slope. Given that we don't know, and the city was not, don't have a definitive answer in terms of what type of vegetation they would like to plant on that site slope. That's sort of how we derive at that conclusion with that $150,000.
Okay, thank you. Any other thoughts, questions from board members?
Yeah, I guess my thought is there will be buffering and beautification at some point because the city will incorporate this into the plan. And my guess is the city, if they're doing a beautification project, isn't going to leave this area barren.
Mr. Chair, did you want me to address that?
Sure.
So we will draft up a formal agreement as to how the $150,000 funds are supposed to be used. They will be kept in a separated account that will be used only for the Downtown Gateway Master Plan. We'll have specifications in that agreement for the team to sign off on their end. And we would have, as far as that plan goes, we need additional public comment periods to determine exactly what York Hill is going to look like. And we need to involve other staff. And so that's why we're just not prepared right now to tell you exactly what that's going to look like. We do have some grant funds also that have been awarded to that project. We did, Public Works did present an update on where we're at with the Downtown Gateway project. And the striping that you've recently seen down in that area is part of that project, but it's just a demonstration to show how the roadway can function differently in the future. So I hope that helps address how this could fit into the larger thoughts.
Thank you, Emily. Any other thoughts from board members? Jeff?
I just wanted to touch base. Jim was pointing out some conditions of approval that we should look at. I think we need to kind of look at the condition of approval 7 and 8. It's our usual kind of a boilerplate for most subdivisions, and asking that it complies with the NEC, the National Electrical Code. I believe that most of their stuff is going to fall into the National Electrical Safety Code, which we don't typically enforce through our code enforcement department, due to the fact they're a public utility. So we may want to either modify that or take that out. There's going to be a portion, I'm sure, that would be permittable for structures and controls, but oftentimes everything that's in the normal operation of a public utility doesn't have a permit at the state level, is my understanding. So we just may want to adjust those so that they're a little more fitting to this applicant. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. And that number was again for me?
I believe it's 7, mainly 8, but 7 and 8 are the ones that we'll typically,
All right, great, thank you. Any other thoughts or questions from board members?
if we may, I think it's a good time, maybe we can open the public hearing for
Yes.
109 Main Street.
Second.
Thank you for the motion, Jeff, and the second, Jim. Any additional discussion on opening public hearing? All right, those in favor, Jim?
Yes.
Joyce?
Yes.
Jeff?
Yes.
Camille?
Yes.
Catherine?
Yes.
I vote yes as well. Motion passes 6-0. If anyone is with us this evening to speak on this item, please come to the podium and state your name and address for the record. We will collect comments and address them at the conclusion.
Mr. Chair, seeing no one wishing to speak, I move that we continue the public hearing to, what's the next date that we would,
August 19th?
to August 19th?
May I just ask a question?
Yes.
You're in the middle. So the applicant, I'm just curious if we could just give the applicant a list of items to return with, because I know that they are organizing construction to start at the end of this month, actually maybe even sooner than the end of this month. So they have some pretty tight timelines they're working with.
So, motion by Jeff to continue. Did I get an official second?
Yes, I seconded it.
Second by Jim. So motion by Jeff to continue to August 19th. Second by Jim. Any additional discussion? So there's, Jim.
So I think for Emily and the applicant, the only thing that, I guess the only reason I'm seconding the motion to continue is because we'd just like to know one way or the other about this possible sidewalk easement. I mean, that's as far as I can see here. I think everything else we can work through. I'd be interested in some additional language on conditions of approval 7 and 8. I mean, I think Jeff makes a good point. I know nothing about that, but I'm convinced he does. So some additional language there would be helpful, but primarily, I think the only concern is we just need to know about the sidewalk, because that's a pretty important condition of approval. So that's all I have as to why I'm willing to continue the public hearing.
Thank you, Jim. Jeff?
I too, I just didn't want to get into a time constraint because I feel there's a couple big items. If nothing else, maybe we just hold and go back to deliberation before we make a motion on closing the public hearing. But I would like to iron out a couple of things with the buffering and that obviously they can't answer the question about sidewalk easement at this point. So I didn't want to put us in a time constraint. I'd like to have feedback on that final decision. Thank you.
Any other thoughts from board members?
My only thought is I'm not sure a week is enough, but see how far we get in a week. I mean, hopefully there's an agreement on a sidewalk easement. It's asking a lot to have it
Right, so that would,
written up and executed in a week.
yeah, that was going to be my question, I guess,
But this says the applicant shall execute a sidewalk easement, so it doesn't say it has to be completed before final approval, just that there's an agreement that there's going to be a sidewalk easement.
Well, Joyce is bringing up what I was going to say as well, is I like deadlines. I know the applicant mentioned item 15 here. I keep circling back that and I agree with board members, that financial fee in lieu of is is greatly appreciated. We like that. I'm trying to understand how the city would work that through. It looks like we have about 7 feet from the road edge to the property. I don't know if that's enough. I'm not sure. Without an easement, how do we apply that? And if there's no easement and we can't do anything in there, then we have all this great work and this new design, and then we can't do anything up the hill. And I know that's not the applicant's intention, but the way the verbiage is, it's shall execute the agreement prior to the release of the financial guarantee, which, Emily, is at the conclusion of the work. Is that correct? And do we know what that financial guarantee amount is yet?
Yes, the applicants have already submitted the financial guarantee paperwork. They're trying to get everything ready for the post-approval process.
I'm just trying to find it here in our previous document. Do you know what that value is off the top of your head?
No, I don't, but they can report it.
423,880 something.
Okay, so it's
Part of the, it's a lot of money.
so it's a significant amount. So, and for the sake of discussion, can you remind me of the construction timeframe that you're looking, if you begin at September 1st, for example?
Yeah, so there are a couple of distribution lines that are adjacent to the substation that are no longer in use. So we're trying to take down overhead distribution line that's at the top of that site slope.
Sure.
But the actual substation, construction of the substation, material delivery will not happen until later this year, early next year.
So you could, from start to finish, 3 months, 2 months or so by the end of the year?
Start to finish for the whole project?
Sure,
Or,
yeah. Or, for example, to have the release of the financial guarantee, for example. So I'm trying to work through that time frame. If the board finds the conditions appropriate as is, and we agree upon it, and the project moves forward, then you would have 3 months to work through an agreement, or you'd have 1 month or 2 months, because the way that condition is written is for the release of the financial guarantee. So once that's in place, so there's quite a bit of time, it seems, to work through that easement language. That's what I'm trying to work through.
no, understood. And okay, so the overall construction, there's actually 2 parts to what we're doing at the substation. One is removing essentially the null-void distribution line, overhead distribution line, and the other component is the expansion of the yard, and we're upgrading 2 transformers. That whole duration will take place. We're anticipating on starting construction in September of this year, and it will last till end of next year? No, for the whole thing, substation. End of next year. So that, 2026.
Okay.
So September of 2025 to December of 2026, roughly. That's a rough time frame.
Okay, so we have quite a bit of time to work through.
We do. With that being said, again, I cannot foreshadow what real estate will respond to the city's request.
Sure.
In the event that is a no-go from our real estate end, does that mean we lose our performance guarantee fee? Because the way it's written, it's indicating that.
Sure. So we're still, just to sort of recap here for a moment, where we had a motion to continue the public hearing. We're having a discussion on continuing the public hearing to August 19th. There's been board discussion about the time frame, so once we close the public hearing, then a decision has to be made on the application within 30 days. So from there, as part of that motion, moving to August 19th. Emily, correct me if I'm wrong, as the verbiage sits now, the applicant is correct. If no easement is found to be in agreement, then there wouldn't be a release of the financial guarantee. However, the applicant could come back and request an amendment to the approval or conditions of approval and come back before the board. Is that something that that can happen?
Yes, the applicant could come back at any time and ask for an amendment to the condition.
And bring forth something, another scenario to resolve the easement that the board and the city was looking for, hypothetically, conceptually.
Yes, I mean, you also could, the board could revise the language if you don't want it as strictly tied to the financial guarantee. But it's always good to make sure the applicant's in agreement with whatever condition is being put on their documentation.
Of course. So I guess as it sits now, and if it's agreeable to the applicant, whether we continue or close the public hearing, the proposal is to come back and have discussion on the 19th. Is the 19th enough time to begin conversations with the real estate team and sort of start to get their temperature, if that's something that they can be amendable to? And I know a week's a short amount of time, but that 1 week could sort of give us an opportunity to decide or learn if that condition needs to be adjusted or if we need to shift or anything. I guess I'm looking to try to keep things moving forward here, that's all. Go.
If I may just jump in, I think I probably should have brought this up sooner, but so backing up just a little bit and looking at the findings of fact, and what is laid out here are the criteria for site plan review, like approval. And I think the two criteria where the sidewalk easement is mentioned is J, which is vehicles, circulation, and pedestrian access, and R, which is traffic. When I read both of those, vehicle circulation and pedestrian access is the provisions for vehicle loading, unloading, parking, and vehicular and pedestrian access on the site and onto adjacent public streets do not create hazards and unsafe conditions. I'm not making the connection as to how the sidewalk easement really fits into that. This isn't a site that pedestrians access. So maybe some more explanation on how the sidewalk easement really ties into the site plan review criteria of approval. And similarly for our traffic, the proposed development will not cause safety hazards and will be consistent with generally accepted complete street standards. Again, I'm just struggling with understanding how this sidewalk easement really ties into that criteria as well. So I think maybe some explanation from the board or staff could help us with this issue as well.
Sure. You want to tackle that, Emily, or you want me to go first?
I think the board can go first. It was something that came out of the site walk, so.
Sure. So I see J and R as it's written in there. Based on the work that wants to happen along that road frontage, the easement is creating the flexibility and the opportunity to work in that area without significantly affecting any of the site, allowing the city to use the fee in lieu of towards the gateway plan. With that being said, where are we? Landscaping, buffers, that section as well, that fee in lieu of satisfies that component as well. So the pieces and parts are kind of all relating to each other. So in lieu of landscaping, buffering, the added easement with the fee creates the opportunity for the city to sort of tackle those items. Does that sound correct to the board? Did I explain that correctly? Emily, does that help? Anything to add, Emily? Is that okay?
Yeah, and that was my understanding, and this condition can be changed by the board with the applicant.
Sure.
These are just, this was the most time, I tried to write in the most time to work out any details of an easement that is possible.
Sure, because the fee, I don't see how the fee works without the easement. That's sort of, that's how I see it. It sounds like that's how a few of the board members see it as well. So if we get the fee in lieu of, and that's fantastic, but if we can't do anything and can't modify, or there's a lot of property line and frontage in there. So I think that's where the two pieces together kind of work in tandem. Does that help answer the question?
Right. Well, you're talking about different things. I mean, you're talking about the redesign of the hill as part of the Gateway project. That part of that redesign, we hope, involves sidewalk, landscaping, buffering. But the other part and parcel is improving pedestrian safety.
Sure.
And this is an opportunity for us to help guarantee pedestrian safety by creating an option for a sidewalk on that side of the road.
Sure, on something that the city will undertake.
Yeah, so in J, I mean, we're talking about pedestrian access. I suppose hypothetically pedestrian access to the site, because people can walk up the sidewalk onto the site. I know you don't want pedestrians walking onto that property. But pedestrian access in general to the area and pedestrian safety.
Sure. So we can, like Emily said, we can adjust these conditions and findings. We would just circle back to buffering and landscaping, and I guess adjust that one if we, does that make sense?
But talk to real estate and find out if real estate's amenable to doing a 30-foot sidewalk easement.
I just want to clarify, so
We're great.
the $150,000 funding toward the city, toward the future Gateway project, it's not, that, I don't believe that is an issue on our end. It is, we don't know how the real estate folks are going to respond to the city's request in terms of the easement. So just so that we are clear that we are providing the proper information to senior management, the way the current draft condition is written, if some point down the line we are issue our permit for this project, but the real estate folks cannot come to an agreement with the city staff, we will not get our performance guarantee feedback, the way it's written right now. That's
Correct. And Emily, let me go back to the condition of approval. Is the fee in lieu of directly tied into the easement? So it's prior to the release of the financial guarantee, the applicant would pay the fee in lieu of. So in that scenario, the way it's written, those 14 and 15, if the sidewalk easement doesn't come into play and can't be found amendable, then the applicant wouldn't be obligated to pay that fee then. It is a condition of approval, but they would have to pay that fee to get the financial guarantee back, and if they're not going to get the financial guarantee back, they're not going to pay the fee, sort of thing. So it's a little bit of a chicken and egg kind of thing. So that's
So just if I can, we would work with the applicant. We just need to put timelines on these things as far as once the decision gets made, whatever the in lieu financial contribution is, we're going to work on an agreement with the applicant that says how that's going to be paid. And it might be paid before the project is complete. But what we're saying is how we do our process is we need to tie it to something in the condition. We can't just have it out there because then we don't know when it gets triggered, if for some reason we don't come to an agreement. So that's the only reason why it says prior to release of financial guarantee. We're not trying to inappropriately hold any financial guarantee funds. We can also say prior to formal project closeout with the planning department.
Sure.
That's fine too. But we were just trying to tie it to something that we're used to monitoring. I think the question here really is there a path forward to talk for the planning team, to talk with the real estate group, to understand if a sidewalk easement is even an option at any type of width, whether that be 10 feet, 5 feet, 7 feet, 30, whatever it's going to be, is there any type of option forward? And I think that is really the question that we have as the planning group. So that can either be captured in some sort of condition of approval tonight, or it could be captured as a discussion before August 19th that we can try to help coordinate, but we just need to be connected to the correct people, or this condition can stand. It sounds like there's a lot of opposition about this condition remaining here from the applicant, so I would advise that it be revised if you're going to finalize your review tonight.
Sure. So I'm picking up what the applicants is telling us, that the real estate team might be difficult to connect with, and we're not sure how they're going to respond. And I don't think we need to iron out exactly what it is, but I think getting the dialogue started, I think, could be good. So I guess to continue with the motion, to continue the public hearing to next week, do you think that's enough time to at least begin some sort of dialogue and get a temperature with them? We come back next week, we continue our discussion, and we make any adjustments to any of the findings of fact or conditions of approval as appropriate to move forward. Is that?
Yeah, no, that's sure. That's fair. Certainly, realizing that discussion needs to happen with the city staff or the board needs that information. Certainly, we'll try to push on our end.
Sure.
Get the real estate folks to correspond with the city folks.
Yeah, because we don't want, like, as Emily said, to create any unnecessary conditions that don't meet the intent, don't meet what we're trying to do here. But since a few of them are tied together, I don't think without knowing, it's hard telling not knowing sort of thing. So that's, Jeff, any other thoughts?
Yeah, well, one, I kind of threw this out at the site walk, and it was just kind of a good neighbor thing. We know the sidewalk is challenging because we only have, I think, 7 feet to try to work with, and the retaining wall. And if they could come forward with something, would be obviously very beneficial as a good neighbor standard. They have the difficult task of providing us power, which we as a board continue to approve divisions. They need capacity to supply those subdivisions. This is going to be nice because it's going to give us some redundancy, some ability for them to maintain equipment. Obviously, it's very difficult, as Jim pointed out. How do we affect these visual buffers, right? It's a substation. And at the end of the day, it's always going to be a substation. What do we do to try to soften it? I'm just really worried that, I have skepticism about the gateway pedestrian movement plan as it'll unfold. That's why I kind of brought the sidewalk availability to do it and retaining walls in the future. And I don't want it to be too industrial. It sounds like we're pretty clear that, the buffering coming up that hill was going to remain about the same, our visual impact. But I don't want it to be coming, welcome to Saco, we've got a great side of a hill, it's, beautiful landscaping, and then it looks like we're right back in our industrial age, at the top of the hill with all this other equipment on both sides. We have another one tonight that's going to block some of the train station. How do we visually buffer the type of needs and growth that we're looking at? And I kind of felt like we were good if we can, let them kind of do what they're doing on this side and leave that sumac, that foliage, and they're tucked up in behind during our site walk. I think we all agree they were tucked up in behind, and we can keep the beautification kind of to the left. Maybe you won't look so hard on the right when you go by. But I didn't expect it to be this complicated and convoluted to try to reserve that access in the future for that sidewalk easement. And I just think it's kind of a good neighbor standard that we're trying to fulfill. I would be in support of, starting that conversation next week, continuing our public hearing. Let's continue tonight. Maybe we could look through these findings of facts and conditions of approval and try to tighten them up. That way, they would have a much better draft of where we're heading. If we make some edits tonight, and be very quick to hopefully find a resolution on the 19th for final approval. I don't see why we couldn't continue our deliberations and modify, I think we had site plan review D, I, J, U, and R to kind of just make findings on. We could try to tighten those up, and that way the applicants know where our thoughts are and trying to finalize a decision. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Jeff. Jim?
So just sort of finally, because this is probably the longest discussion in any motion to continue a public hearing ever, but I think it's been very helpful for all of us. But looking at the after the fact packet, I found Ryan Summers' email. He's a Parks and Rec director. As his idea as to how that $150,000 is supposed to be used for providing screening, arborvitae's, ornamental trees, a decorative fence once the chain link fence comes down, and a possible welcome sign. So that's at least what he had envisioned for that $150,000, which makes perfect sense. And I agree with Jeff. We can tweak the findings of fact and conditions of approval, perhaps at that next meeting. I don't know that we need to do it right now, but I do think having this issue of the sidewalk easement just sitting out there, I'm sure that, I think it's Alan Sarek at Avangard, Avangrid?
Avangrid, that's correct. He's the manager
Avangrid?
of real estate group.
Sure, so we have his information already, and hopefully in the next 7 days, we could figure out the extent to which CMP will work with the city on the sidewalk easement. And if for some reason that doesn't work out, then we can come back and we may have a lot of tweaking to do to findings of fact and conditions of approval. But I don't know if there's much more we can do tonight until we get the answer on that sidewalk. That's just my thought.
All right, thank you, Jim. Any other final thoughts on the discussion of the motion? Okay. Motion made by Jeff, seconded by Jim to continue public hearing to August 19th. All right, those in favor. Jim?
Yes.
Joyce?
Yes.
Jeff?
Yes.
Camille?
Yes.
Catherine?
Yes.
I vote yes. Motion passes 6-0. We'll continue public hearing. We'll get more information on the 19th. And as far as conditions, Jeff, you mentioned touching on some of the conditions here. I think I heard D, I have I as well. Jim, did you say R as well?
Well, J had the sidewalk easement.
J has the sidewalk easement.
U, I think, was the audiovisual buffer.
And U. I mean, J is... J is I guess
sidewalk
need to be
easement.
addressed if we, based on the next discussion, when we return. So if we start with D, any input on D, compatibility with neighboring buildings? Jim, add some clarifying questions. The applicant confirmed similar height, structure, shape, equipment.
I would consider just eliminating the sentence that begins with the word however. Just leave it, there are other operating utilities in this area of downtown, so this proposal is consistent with other such structures.
I would agree. It's unique in nature, but it's already existing, and expanding the footprint.
Therefore, you want to add, therefore, this standard has been met, or something along that, to be specific, that we found it compliant?
I mean, there are other operating utilities in this area of the downtown, so this proposal is consistent with other such structures. Also, these structures are already in existence. Therefore, the standard has been met.
Sure.
I would think for I, we could do something very similar. They've kind of indicated we're not talking about a large capacity upgrade, and they won't be running simultaneously, so it'll be very similar to any existing vibration that you might hear currently.
So eliminate the board should make a finding sentence and indicate, yeah, the facility will. Emily already has it.
Okay. Any thoughts on you?
Given the $150,000, what do you want to call this? It's not a donation, right? $150,000 payment for downtown gateway project improvements.
It's in lieu,
I like the fee in lieu.
in lieu.
The fee in lieu. Given the payment of the fee in lieu, which funds will be used for beautification and buffering. The standard has been met. This is under U, not J, though.
You know, Mr. Chair, if I may, the director of Parks and Rec had kind of indicated that the chain link fence was coming down in his email. And I don't think that's necessarily accurate. You guys are just repositioning the chain link fence. You're required to have that for security,
We are
correct?
required to
Right?
have a chain link fence.
Has there ever been discussion about any privacy panels, maybe non-conductive inserts into the chain link fencing or like exterior screening. I mean, have any communities ever asked for like an exterior screening, kind of that privacy screen where the town does these mural contests, right? Where is it possible every year, even if the town provides it, that it could be hung on that fence, or is that like a taboo area for your staff to attach? So,
Hanging something on the fence, I'm pretty sure that has never happened. So, yeah, we can't hang anything on the fence.
Okay.
Yeah. In terms of what your first part of the question about like other type of fencing, we'll have to look into that. Our standard is chain link fence because for grounding issue.
Understandable, and I completely get that. I was just wondering if there's a creative way that you guys can still have your standard and either an outside fence that, you know, there can be some sort of a very tasteful decorative mural from an artist for a season that gets put up. You know, like I think of some of the amusement parks that have privacy fencing along Route 1, and if something were to be painted on that, if there's an opportunity there, we wrap our traffic control cabinets in these vinyl wraps from local artisan designs, right?
Yeah, no, understood.
So just an easy way.
So the city of Portland asked for the same thing when we upgraded our Forest Ave substation in Portland 5 years ago probably, that moved up the chain and it got struck down. That was a no-go.
Are they talking about, is he referring to a different chain link fence? Is there more than one? Is he talking about
No, I was
construction
referring
fencing?
I have no idea what he was referring to. I was responding to the art mural. That was
Sure,
a no-go
sure.
from our end.
Yeah.
The chain link fence itself, that's our standard for grounding purposes. And I don't know what he was referring to in terms of the fence coming down.
Yeah, because he talks about decorative fence once the chain link fence comes down.
So,
The chain link fence is being relocated.
Mr. Chair.
Oh, that's probably it.
If I can, I think we're getting into the details on like fencing. I think Ryan Summer, Parks and Rec Director, was just trying to share, there could be a nice vision of the area. I don't think he was trying to say he's going to remove or want anyone to remove any type of chain link fence or anything like that. So he kind of has a vision for the area. Other city staff also have things they're envisioning for the area. I know there's some members of the public that have visions for the area, so that's why we have to go through the public comment process, get everything vetted out a little bit more thoroughly. But he was just giving some ideas of what he could do on the hill, I think, absent of requirements and specifications for chain link fence relative to this proposal, but it is a little confusing because it calls out fencing.
So then we're just saying the standard has been met on you?
In Portland, on Union in 4, is that a CMP substation?
Union, yes.
And that, what is that fencing there? Is there something on the fencing there? Is it like a fiberglass?
I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah,
That was just something other than chain link there, but I was just curious. Okay.
we can certainly look into that and get back.
Not necessarily, we just started talking about it, and I walk by it quite a bit, so I was just curious. Okay. Standard has been met, thank you.
Mr. Chair,
Jim.
I would suggest, any other findings of fact that reference the sidewalk, we should leave until the next meeting. Although Jeff intrigued me with his thoughts on perhaps changing the conditions of approval 7 and 8 because of who will actually be approving these facilities. It might not be local code enforcement individuals. And I don't know if anyone has any thoughts as to appropriate language, or maybe the staff can think about that more and come up with something for us the next meeting.
Update the code.
Yeah, I think that it's important. We should review it, and I'm just saying because it's limiting, it's very specific that we're referring to a national electrical code, which typically doesn't cover this type of installation. National Electrical Safety Code, and I think if we just either be more clear about what portion the town is going to have authority to inspect, and then the rest of it is kind of up to their regulations. So, because Marcel doesn't typically inspect the National Electrical Safety Code. It's not adopted in Chapter 87.
gotten
Great, thank you, Jim.
for that.
Any other
This is-
thoughts from board members? So we've been able to make some amendments to a few of the findings of fact. We've add some clarity or looking for some clarity on 7 and 8 of the conditions of approval. Any other items that the board wants to discuss ahead of any revisions from the applicant or future discussion?
Well, Mr. Chair, just on that same topic, I'm just looking at condition of approval number 12. Would that also apply to, it needs to be tweaked because maybe that technical design construction standards manual might not apply in this particular instance? I don't know.
I think in that application it would. We haven't referenced anything in the technical design manual for the electrical portion yet. So I think leaving that in there is appropriate for all their stormwater, and
Okay.
that would be very appropriate.
Okay.
The more I read 8, I think we should probably just delete it because they won't even typically have licensing requirements, a lot of their. So we might want to consider about having it struck or modified for whatever portion of the premises control piece that the local authority will have jurisdiction over.
How does it look just having it deleted?
So if I may, number 12, that's, we typically provide as-built plans. So that's a very standard ask.
Okay. Any other thoughts from board members? All right. I think we have good direction here. So, public hearing has been continued to the 19th, so with that, I think we just have a motion to continue review to the 19th as well, unless board members have any final thoughts or anything additional for the applicant.
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Second.
Thank you for the motion, Jim, and the second, Jeff. Any additional discussion on the motion to continue to August 19th? All right, those in favor, Jim, excuse me,
Yes.
Joyce,
Yes.
Jeff,
Yes.
Camille,
Yes.
Catherine?
Yes.
I vote yes as well. Motion passes 6-0. Great. We'll see you a week from tonight. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, can we take a short recess before the next item, please?
Sure. 5 minutes? All right, great. Thank you, everyone, for that short recess. We will continue this evening with our next agenda item. This is 7D, and this is 138 Main Street, map 37, lot 8. And this is a continued public hearing and continued application review for a proposal to install electric bus chargers and utilities at the Bedford Saco Orchard Beach Transportation Center. Emily, anything to add on this item?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We have been putting the updates in the packets received from the applicants. So we've put together, Shannon drafted a memo here and updated it for this evening and gave questions and comments from staff. We've also had a couple of site visits on, at the facility, with one with staff and then one with the board in July. And so tonight you're asked to reopen the hearing, go through the materials that have been received, the applicant responses that have been received, and the applicants are present tonight. We also provided draft findings and draft conditions for the board's review. And then one thing that has come up is we had indicated that a decommissioning plan should be for the EV bus chargers and associated infrastructure should be finalized before pre-construction meeting. And it's also come up that we need to clarify updates, may need to have an update to the lease with City Council to reflect the decommissioning plan. So I just want to make sure that that is on the record for the board this evening. I usually try to call the applicant, but unfortunately I just did not get a chance to today because that just came up. So that will be something that staff will need to review with city administration and potentially City Council just to make sure that it is reflected going forward. And I recommend that we have that clarified for the right title and interest considerations. So a lot here, but I'm happy to answer questions as we go forward and hear from the board.
Great, thank you, Emily. Board members, any questions at this time for staff? All right, and we have the applicant with us this evening to give us a brief update on some of the material and follow-up questions that we had from our last meeting and site walk.
Oh, Mr. Chair, I apologize. Can I add one more item?
Yes, please.
The other thing I did just get this evening, I had some trouble getting in touch with our landscape architect peer reviewer, but later this evening I was able to get her updates. So she took the plan and recommended certain plantings. I did give her the parameters from Marcel, and we will make sure this is then reviewed again by Marcel. They were not able to meet just because their schedules were so different. So we were not able to have like a Teams meeting or meet specifically. However, she was able to take the plans and materials we've received to date, and then one of the plans, she was able to add conceptual updates of what it could look like if there were slightly different landscaping there. So again, I just received this before the meeting, but I wanted to make sure that you saw it, and we will include it in the more section as well. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Emily. So this is something that the applicant's probably just seeing for the first time as well?
Yes, because I just received it. Everyone's just seeing this.
Okay, great. Any additional thoughts from board members on what Emily just gave us? All right, and the applicant's with us this evening. Go ahead. I know there's a lot of new stuff just this moment, but
yeah, that's fine. I mean,
we'll work it through.
Hi, I'm Matt with Camper Operating Company. That's not too much of a deviation from what we already had planned, so we're totally fine with that.
Okay. Any other update as far as the other items that we discussed at our last meeting and site walk?
Yeah, there was a couple items from the fire marshal. One was the emergency shut off, and we are okay going ahead with emergency shut off. There's an electrical panel raised off the ground by the platform where the old windmill was, and we'll just put a shut-off right on the backside of that, so there's no other visual discrepancies with it, and it'll shut the whole thing off. And then there's a knock, we're going to add a knock box to the gate so that the fire team can get in there. There was one other additional thing that they wanted, which was lighting. I think for lighting, we probably want to do motion sensor lighting. I don't think you guys really want that lit up all night long. So we're okay with putting motion sensor lighting in there. There was a comment about additional cameras added inside the fence there. I think that's something we'll have to discuss with the police department. We wouldn't own and operate those cameras, so, but we have no problem with cameras being inside our electrical equipment. I believe that was the majority of your comments.
Okay. And then the Knox boxes, you'll coordinate those locations, you mentioned it, to open the gate.
Yep.
But you'll coordinate the locations of the Knox box with fire department. I think on site, they mentioned potentially where the shut-off was, having a Knox box in that location as well. Maybe there's one in a different location or additionally for non-emergencies, I'm not sure, but you can work with fire department on that. What else do we have here? Thoughts on bollards in that area? I know there was discussion on site.
Yeah, I believe we were planning on raising the concrete platform for protection instead of bollards. We're open to interpretation. There's also decorative rocks there. So whatever you guys see fit, whatever the city prefers.
Okay.
So the bollards were added on each side of the gate, protecting the parking lot side. And also the platform, to level a platform, it was raised approximately 12 inches so the sidewalk plow coming up through the sidewalk wouldn't bump over it. They'd be able to lay right against that and not have an issue with the sidewalk plow jumping the curb and getting in an electrical equipment, so.
Okay. Jim?
It looks like from some of the most recent drawings that you had plantings all, well, on 3 sides of the structure. And with our peer reviewer suggesting certain very particular plants there, it sounded like you're okay with that?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. What we put in was just a filler. We plan on, whatever you guys want us to put in. It's not a problem.
And it looks like you're not going to be too close to the sidewalk there. I mean, you'll get it kind of close, but you won't be infringing on the sidewalk in any way in that area with any plantings?
Right, no, there'll be several feet between the plants and the sidewalk.
Oh, that looks like it could work from my perspective, so, thank you.
Travis from Public Works had mentioned that in I think it's a gateway plan that they're looking at expanding that sidewalk out. So we actually walked that and measured it out, and we're in good shape.
Thank you, Jim. Any other thoughts from board members? Jeff?
I was wondering, one, the CMP easement for mill number 4, is also going to be an easement from the city to construct the line across the city parcel. Everyone's on board with that. The decommissioning plan, when we talk about that, because of all the site, the VRAP work about site work, is that decommissioning plan that staff's been working on, is that going to include removal of all the concrete structures so that we don't have like the old windmill tower and these foundation pads sitting there?
I don't think it will, Mr. Chair, did you want me to? I don't think it will necessarily involve all the structures out there where the windmill tower is. We actually use where the windmill used to be, that concrete area we use for some things, seasonal decorations. I believe it's where the Christmas tree may go. But it would include like decommissioning of the EV charging infrastructure specifically.
Yes, but I mean, so there are two pentagraphic arms that are going to have very large foundations that are bored down. There's a large transformer pad. There's another elevated foundation for the charging units. Are all of those concrete structures going to plan on being removed in the decommissioning plan so that we don't have this array of all foundations that are scattered? Is my concern. Yeah. We need to capture that, because it sounds like that will involve another permit, right? Because they're doing excavation and they'll have to re-stabilize that site with whatever the capping is that's in there, correct?
Yeah, we'd have to capture all that. I thought you meant the concrete pad that exists
No.
on the
Obviously,
other side.
that's not their responsibility, but I just didn't want these promised great things to leave all these tombstones in the public area.
Yeah, so. Good point.
The final piece that I had, and I don't know if they just touched on it, even with that updated landscaping plan, the Public Works Director Moore on August 1st sent a memo and stated that all improvements shall be 20 feet from the edge of pavement. And from the scale of the sites, it doesn't look like they have anywhere near the clearance that they will need from the edge of Main Street to maintain 20 feet. If you look at the updated plan, before or after, everything around the utility transformer looks like it's going to be within 20 feet of the Main Street Bridge, and the director was very clear that there shall be 20 feet of clear space from edge of pavement in that memo.
So is that Emily will have to get additional clarity on that, have the director review as well, review that again. Can you throw up that landscape plan as well, again, Emily, when you have a moment? Okay, any other thoughts, Jeff?
There was the right title and interest that the city planner brought up. I also had, I don't know if it's a conflict, but I mean, the Saco River corridor permit approval that was given on July 9th states that the applicant owns the land. I don't know if that's going to affect its validity. I mean, we know there's a lease on it, but they're not the owner of it. I don't know if that needed to be captured or readdressed.
Mr. Chair, just a
Yes.
point of clarity, and I'm actually speaking to one of Jeff's points. I'm looking at that memo from the Public Works Director, Travis Moore. And maybe I misunderstood what Jeff was talking about. I thought he was mentioning 20 feet from the sidewalk, but this says shall be no closer than 20 feet from the existing edge of the roadway. And I mean, it's a little hard to tell there, but it looks like it's close to the edge of the sidewalk, but it's not necessarily close to the roadway. I don't know what the measurements are.
When we were on site, we measured, and there was 20 feet from the roadway to the fence line. And actually, looking at these drawings, I was reviewing this afternoon the utility requirements. You're only required 3 feet from the back and sides from a utility transformer. So I believe we can actually bring that fence line in slightly.
Yeah, so what he's talking about there is if you look in the plan that's shown here, that fence line currently has a jag in it, so it comes down and then walks out 6 more feet and then drops southward again or down on the drawing. And to accommodate that, the trees are kind of in a sweeping arc. But we'd be able to, by moving the back wall of the fence to within 3 feet of that transformer, that fence line could now be basically straight. So there would be no step off in that fence line. It would be straight down, which would bring everything 6 feet further from the roadway.
Okay. I think that's good. That's one of the items that we talked about how large that pad was going to be when we were on site, how far it was going to push away.
Yeah, one of the challenges previously was the thought of putting the trees inside the fence line, so then the fence line moved significantly further away because it needed to be further from the transformer because of the plantings. And once the plants went back outside the fence line, the person who did the drawing did not recognize that change and did not modify. So.
Sure. Any other?
It would be helpful, Emily, for clarity, to know whether the request now is to skip the plantings on both sides and only do the planting facing the street.
Mr. Chair?
Sure.
I'm not sure that the request is to not do those plantings or not. This was just an update from the peer reviewer. It seems like she still has the plantings on there on either side, but I know that with coordination with multiple site visits, things may move slightly. We just need to get it on the final plan, whatever, or on the plan showing like what is the final path forward here.
Mr. Chair, at least from my perspective, provided they can pull that fence in, then it certainly looks like you got plenty of space between the roadway and even the sidewalk, the roadway or the sidewalk, and this facility. I would encourage keeping the plantings on the sides, because I think as you're coming up the hill or about to go down the hill, it'll hide that whole structure better. So I would be in favor of keeping those.
Thank you, Jim. Any other thoughts from board members? So with that shift in the fencing, we can pull that landscaping over, we can get confirmation on that 20-foot edge. I guess, Emily, the direction, if the board agrees, would be, it's in here, it says, but there's, we have electrical components, foundation, protection, fencing, screening, and then we sort of move into landscaping. And I guess I'd like to understand and confirm that he's really looking for everything within that 20 feet, or maybe landscaping can be within the 20, and hard-built items are beyond 20. I think what's going to be just looks like it's going to be close, that's all. I just want to make sure everyone's on the same page and covered. Go ahead.
I believe that was everything and anything, so including landscaping out of that 20 feet, but I can certainly confirm that with him in a written email back to the board.
Thank you. Any other thoughts or questions from board members?
Mr. Chair, just a few.
Sure.
For the applicant, one of the findings of fact we need to make is that this structure is going to be compatible with neighboring buildings. How tall is it going to be? I mean, I know you have these arms sticking out, but what's the, just in terms of height and in dimensions? Well, certainly there were two structures, right? You get the pantographs, those are pretty tall.
Cabinets are about this high, about 6 feet, just under 6 feet.
Okay,
Okay?
yeah,
And then the actual pantograph is up over the top of the bus, and it actually pantographs down to the top of the bus. So it's like a light pole.
okay,
And they're bronze, the same color as the light pole, so they blend right in.
I see.
It's like a decorative.
Yep, that,
And options, and the options we chose were the...
Sorry, can you hit the microphone so the recording gets it? Thank you.
We had options, and the options we chose were the antique look, so it would go along with the rest of the light poles and the type of infrastructure that's already there.
sure, I see, that's very helpful. That's very helpful. Thank you.
And then the fence is 6 feet tall, and the junipers are 12 in this proposal. And then there is some other shorter decorative, I guess that's a good word, decorative landscaping, sort of that front row as well, I think that the landscape architect provided, so we can have confirmation there. I guess back to my other question, Emily, with the Director of Public Works there, just ensuring the landscape within 20 feet. That's all. I follow all the built equipment, but then landscaping, that's a big buffer for landscape, that's all. Usually we're looking for landscape closer. So in this instance, the request has been to push back. Just understand, if it's for sight lines, for pedestrian, for traffic, whatever, just to make sure that we understand. I guess that's my question.
Yeah, is to keep the area clear if the city ever needs it for anything like snow storage or
Sure.
downtown gateway plan, if it gets incorporated into that. That was my understanding. So we actually had the director, Travis, out on the site and spoke with the team here as well. And then from that, he gave that comment. But I will follow up and make sure that he was including everything, including landscaping, or if he was just referencing infrastructure.
Okay, thank you.
And I think we'll be pretty close. If it's like 19 feet, could we just request a variance from the board or from the city?
Well, that's what I want to make sure we have clarity on. I don't want to come across a scenario where at the end of the day, there's missing landscape and we have this, open corner
Yeah, right.
because we didn't meet the 20 feet.
Agreed.
I just want to try to address it now, then have anybody come back and say, you didn't meet the conditions of approval, we're not done, and then everyone's stuck, that's all.
And the trees that are there now are closer than 20 feet.
Well, they seem to be, that's why I'm asking. And then was there a comment, maybe board members recall as well from on-site, Emily, there's a staff member, and I apologize, his name escapes me, had asked about protection. They had experienced a few vehicles kind of shooting off into that area. So did we have a discussion about any protection in that area for vehicles kind of coming through as they're going, down the hill of Main Street, and any protection on the backside of those transformers? Is that?
I think if I remember correctly, it was a light post, and it was a facilities director. And there was discussion of bollards and also the concrete pad being taller, which was for plowing as well as somewhat for protection, but
Okay.
I don't know if the applicants have anything additional to add to that. We really didn't resolve, I think, that completely, but
Yeah, no, we talked about raising the pad a foot for it was for the plow, but, I mean, that would protect the opposite direction also.
Okay.
Yeah, and the site slopes away, so if the pad is elevated a foot from the side closer to the parking lot, that'll make it even taller than a foot on the side closer to the street, right? So that site slopes slightly towards the road.
Okay.
And just to add, I think we also mentioned the potential of like continuing the granite blocks that were already on the left. I think we talked about having a couple more in front, maybe a few more in front. I'm not sure how many. We really didn't finalize the number, but that was also
Yeah,
an option.
That's what I think I'm referring to. So that, and that would sort of be on the backs in between the landscaping and the sidewalk. Probably less than 20 feet, but we'll get clarity on that. Any other questions from board members? All right, with that, we do have this as a continued public hearing. If board members are ready.
Mr. Chair, I'll move to reopen the public hearing.
I will second.
Thank you for the motion, Jim, and the second, Jeff. Any additional discussion on the motion to open a public hearing? All right, those in favor, Jim?
Yes.
Joyce?
Yes.
Jeff?
Yes.
Camille?
Yes.
Catherine?
Yes.
I vote yes as well. Motion passes 6-0 to open the public hearing. If anyone is with us this evening to speak on this item, please come to the podium and state your name and address for the record. We will collect comments and address them at the conclusion.
Mr. Chair, seeing no one's coming forward, I move to close the public hearing.
Thank you for the motion, Joyce.
Second.
Second by Jim, thank you. Any additional discussion on the motion? All right, those in favor, Jim?
Yes.
Joyce?
Yes.
Jeff?
Yes.
Camille?
Yes.
Catherine?
Yes.
I vote yes as well. Motion passes 6-0 to close the public hearing. All right, back to the board. Any final questions, thoughts, concerns? We have a few findings of fact to address, aside from the few items that that staff mentioned for resolution.
Mr. Chair, I had items A, C, G, and T. I don't know if anyone saw any others on the factual findings.
I share that same list, Jim. Thoughts on A?
Mr. Chair, I reviewed the good neighbor standards, performance standards. There didn't seem to be anything under the performance standards that would be directly on point for this facility. And the good neighbor standards, to the extent they applied, I think we also have them covered with, G and H and probably T. So I think, from my perspective, we could eliminate that first sentence under A and simply state that to the extent applicable, the good neighbor standards and performance standards of the zoning ordinance are met, period.
All right, thank you, Jim. Any additional thoughts on that edit?
Mr. Chair, with respect to C, we could eliminate the last sentence and insert that the proposed, the bulk location and height of the proposed structures are compatible with the neighboring properties in that the height of the structures will comport with similar structures in the neighborhood, and the, are they called pentagraph arms are compatible with light poles, and so this standard is met. I've heard that word often enough, I should have remembered it. On G, I think we could eliminate the last sentence and say, based upon the representations of the applicant and the peer review or peer reviewer, and with an alteration to the landscaping to bring it farther from the street, this standard is met. And then with respect to T, I would eliminate the last sentence and simply write that based upon the representations of the applicant and peer reviewer on appropriate landscaping, there will be a sufficient audio-visual buffer to minimize adverse impacts on nearby properties. So this standard is met. I didn't see anything on the draft conditions of approval to change, but I don't know if anyone else did.
Thank you, Jim. Any other thoughts from board members?
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
I mean, I tend to have a little different view on the landscaping and visual buffers. I feel like it does have a negative impact. It's obstructing the view of a very aesthetically pleasing transportation center. It's creating very much of a tunnel effect as we head down York Hill and we're trying to do this gateway project. It's very close. Looking at the scale of the drawing, I feel like it's going to impede on the requested 20-foot setback of pavement the Public Works Director wanted. I think there's a lot of infrastructure trying to be placed in a very tight area. So I disagree. I think that the buffering, where it is sufficient to buffer the view or the equipment, is creating a negative impact on the surrounding area and the space that was very thoughtfully created prior to this.
All right, thank you, Jeff. Any other thoughts from board members?
mean, I guess standing on the site and looking at the train station and the area surrounding it, I'm less concerned about the impact of this one rather small structure. I mean, the majority of people are either walking or driving past, and I think this is a very temporary blockage of the building, and I think there's sufficient signage where I don't think people are going to have a problem finding the train station.
Mr. Chair,
Thank you, Joyce. Yes.
may I just ask if the board wanted to finish these drafts after you get the additional information from the applicant? It sounded like you were going to be asking for some additional information.
That is on my list to finish that discussion. Because we have we have confirming the lease with council, right? So we can't, that's what I was looking for when we, a moment ago. Is there a finding on that? Do you know what number that is? That's so many pages here. I don't want to misspeak.
So I had that you wanted me to check in with Director Moore on the 20-foot consideration, the lease consideration, and then updating the plan slightly for the fencing updates as to where the fencing is going on the property.
Yes, since we reviewed it here as a group, the applicant didn't have, they seemed to support the comments from the landscape architect. We have a plan that conflicts and doesn't meet the 20-foot that the director asked for. So we need to get resolution on that component and then just the lease piece. So those are the two pieces. I guess I see them as two. But as far as, because you called it right title and interest for that lease component, and understanding if it was your question, Emily, or the confirmation that did it need something from council, or you needed to check with council?
Yeah, I believe it's
Confirm
going to
with
need it like a lease update to include a decommissioning plan. So I was just wondering, did you want us to work with the applicant to finalize these items before you finish your findings? Just because if we get something that's slightly different, I don't know if it's going to alter some of these findings or not. That was my question.
Understood. Board members, thoughts on that? I know Jeff had he placed comments on 601G. Any other thoughts from board members?
I mean,
Go ahead.
I also have concern on 601E for public safety, when it reads that, the access to the site and structure is adequate for emergency responders and will not create a fire hazard or other public safety or other safety hazards. And I think the track record of the electric buses kind of speaks for itself, that there is a fire hazard, and most of the time they have no option other than to let it burn till it burns out. I don't think this is necessarily the best, safest spot for it, in close proximity to a main street and close proximity to the railroad tracks. So I feel like I disagree that there is a public safety hazard with the particular location of this. There were there have been several events that have taken place. There was a SEPTA fire in Philadelphia, June 5th of this year. Like 40 buses caught on fire. I think there was like 100 that were damaged. Granted, that was in a storage situation, but batteries were disconnected. They just caught on fire because of moisture. November 22nd, there was a Proterra bus that was caught on fire when it was charging. July 23rd, There was a Connecticut Transit bus that caught on fire. I believe that one even had the suppression system that we've talked about at the depot. People were hurt in fighting that fire. So there is an ongoing risk with these vehicles, and don't get me wrong, there's movement to it, but I think we need to be overall aware of all of our residents in the city, and I just don't think this is the best location to be putting that increased risk. So I would view that, in my opinion, there is a public safety hazard on that finding. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Jeff. Any other thoughts from board members? Jim?
I certainly respect Jeff's point of view and acknowledge that there's some risk as we're turning to all electric vehicles, and we all have to be aware of that. For purposes of this application, though, I think, I read the public safety criteria under section 601 as being broader than that, and I don't think that standard is meant to only approve projects that eliminate every single risk that could to public safety. So I think if it's an acceptable risk because the actual likelihood of something happening is quite low, then I think that standard can be met. But I acknowledge that there have been some horrific instances in other parts of the country in the past. I would just, one other comment I would just make is I think on finding of fact number 8, we should just finish that where we reopen the public hearing. No members of the public chose to speak and the board closed the hearing. We should probably correct that too.
Thank you for clarifying that, Jim.
So, Mr. Chair, if it appears that there's a couple items that we really just need to work through, can all that be done in the next week so that we could
Come on up just so we get it into the
issue of
audio
council and
record.
lease extension, I'm not sure whether that's something that we could realistically get done in a week.
Yeah, unfortunately, I can't speak to what timeline that would entail. We can put this to August 19th. I can find out the timeline and work with the applicant, and if needed, move it if necessary.
I wonder if it could also just be a condition. We have to have the lease corrected in order for us to move forward anyway.
I would just have to confirm that, so.
Could we, if we continue discussion to the 19th, is that enough time to get some input from city administrator, council, mayor, I guess whoever we could get to provide comment or insight on that and how we, a potential verbiage on it, or?
I can get the steps to move it forward. I'm pretty sure, though, that it would take longer than before August 19th. I'm guaranteed that it would take into September to update it, but I can get the next steps forward to do that.
Is it possible to, as the applicant suggested, using the condition of approval as like a backstop to that, just to make sure that even if it takes the council a few months to get it done, but if that's a condition of approval, the applicant will need to get it done in order to move forward.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that we're all clear because this is city property. So unfortunately, I don't have a direct answer for you right now, but.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, I don't think we've ever reviewed an application where somebody doesn't have right title and interest. That's usually it just kills it. So at this point, we just need to kind of table and let them work through the legalities to prove that they have the right and title or right to do this.
So I believe if I can, Mr. Chair.
Yes, please.
There is reference to like EV charging equipment on the site somewhere, but what I need to clarify is what else is needed beyond that, and the decommissioning plan needs to be put into the lease update, and then I need to confirm what the steps are. Usually when we do lease updates like that, they go to the city council, so that would be into September for that.
Yeah, and I think just to clarify, I mean, there is, I mean, our findings of fact under number 4 say there is a commercial lease that's valid through August 31st, 2028. It's just the lease doesn't address
This specific.
this. Yep. So, I mean, they do have right title and interest.
I just want to get this clarified though, because as a city, again, it's city land, so.
Sure, so I guess I'm looking for, can we, if we extend to the 19th, is that enough time to get more understanding and understand if there is a condition that's appropriate to, or a time frame to work something through, or some sort of, if the board feels it, more direction or reassurance that the project's moving forward and it's a matter of working through some stuff with the lease, or perhaps council says, I don't know what they're going to say, but I'm just thinking maybe this one extra week could provide more information or better clarity on this one particular piece.
I can definitely get Director Moore's comments clarified for you by next week, and then I can get next steps of what this would look like, most likely, but I'll probably have that by like Monday, I would imagine.
Okay. Any other thoughts from board members? Jeff?
Yeah, so just for clarity, can we have Director Moore clarify his statement and also field verify the scale of what they've drawn with his setback and see if it even fits?
Yeah, he's been out in the field already to, I don't think he attended the site walk specifically, but he's been out in the field to look at the area. We stood in the general area of where the fencing and landscaping is going to go. I don't think we fully captured Regina's landscape comments because we just received those this evening, so we were probably standing a little farther out than where her plantings would be, but we can certainly ask him to go out again, but he has been on site.
And then the decommissioning plan, if that's going to include removal of visible concrete structures back to grade.
Okay. Any other thoughts from board members?
Mr. Chair, the only thing we have to keep in mind is that our clock's running, right? Since we closed the public hearing?
Correct.
Okay.
All right, any other final thoughts? So it looks like we talked about final few little things. So it looks like just a motion to continue to the 19th, get that final direction, that updated plan with Regina's adjustment, make sure we're at the 20 feet, and hopefully some additional direction on the lease and any potential verbiage we can add to a condition of approval.
Right, I'll make the motion to continue this matter to the 19th.
Second.
Motion by Joyce, second by Jeff. Thank you. Any additional discussion? All right, those in favor, Jim?
Yes.
Joyce?
Yes.
Jeff?
Yes.
Camille?
Yes.
Catherine?
Yes.
I vote yes, motion passes 6-0. So we'll see you a week from today and hopefully get to the last few pieces. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, seeing that it is past 9 o'clock, and in order to continue, I would move that we continue the meeting to review agenda items 7E, F, and G, with a hard stop of 10 o'clock.
Thank you for the motion, Jeff.
I'll second.
Second by Jim, thank you. Any additional discussion? Those in favor, Jim?
Yes.
Joyce?
Yes.
Jeff?
Yes.
Camille?
Yes.
Catherine?
Yes.
I'll vote yes as well. Motion passes 6-0. Thank you. So our next item here, item 7E, is 74 Industrial Park Road, map 71, lot 8. This is a public hearing and continue application review a conditional use amendment request to co-locate adult use cannabis manufacturing. This is by Cosmic Solutions, and this is within the industrial zoning district. Emily, anything to add?
Yes, thank you. We, as city staff, there were a few questions that had come up. We had a couple of staff members who had not been out to the site, bless you, before. And so there was a site visit that we were able to coordinate today. And I believe Lauren has site visit notes in the after the fact packet here to go over just briefly what was observed during that visit. I think some of the staff are pretty familiar with the site from the 2022 review. And so this was to gain some familiarity and go over considerations for business licensing for the facility as well as for this application. So you'll see the notes there that were provided. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Emily. Any questions from board members for Emily at this time? All right, and with that, we have that applicant with us this evening. Thank you for staying.
It's a long day.
Anything to add? Questions, comments?
No, this is, I mean, the only thing that, after today was lining the parking lot and updating the site plan, because we had some things done in the back from, the old site plan that you guys have is from like 2005 or something, like when it was a completely different business. It's not even pertinent to the switching over to dual use for the lab. It's just kind of like this building site map and the parking should be updated. It's not going to be an issue.
Okay.
I'll do it next week. I'll call the people to come in and just put the lines in, and then there was the sprinkler, and that's not even in the lab. That's in question, and the fire called out my partner Alan and said, "Don't worry about it. Like the sprinkler works. It's just like a flap. It's like I don't even know why it's really on here, to be honest. Like we'll get it fixed."
Okay.
The guy that was out there, they talk all the time. Like they know about it. He said it's not a big deal.
Okay.
Yeah, so we're just looking to get the conditional approved so we can go to Dave and get the local authorization, because we still have to go through we haven't even had a chance to go, we guys still have to go to the state after this. We just need the local authorization.
Okay.
Conditional permit.
So that's something you're gonna do right away, you said, so that's.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, the parking lot, we would have done it earlier. We just, during this whole process, we were like following up and like, what do we do? What do we do? And they're like, well, let's just wait and we'll talk to everybody and this and that. I mean, we could have had it done by now if we would have just,
Okay.
like, yeah. Yeah, that's it, right? That's it.
Yeah, I think, yeah, you did cover everything that was on the list here.
Yeah.
All right, board members, any questions for the applicant at this time? Any comments, concerns from the memo from today's meeting? Jim?
So, part of the part of the issue is restriping the parking lot, but also showing us in a plan how it looks now and how it will look with all the parking spaces and ADA compliant spaces and all that on the plan. Would you be able to get that to us for next week so that we could maybe finalize this?
Yeah, I mean, I'm hoping you guys just approve the conditional with a couple conditions, like stripe the parking lot. Like, the stripes are there, they're just not like bright and visible, so.
Well, Brian, I'm not, I know I understand that that's probably not a big job to do, but when we're approving this as a plan, if there's a plan that's going to be, the city's going to hang on to the plan for the future to monitor how you're using the site.
Yeah.
Having the plan drawn out so that it
Oh, I mean,
accurately reflects that would be helpful, that's all.
Yeah, we got to contact Paul, I think, or whoever.
And he will do that?
He'll do that.
Okay.
I thought you meant as far as getting the stripes done.
No,
I gotta
I
call the
just,
company.
I mean, just the plan, if he can, do you think he'd be able to get that done for next week?
I think so. I mean, it's the same plan from 2005. We just plopped a shipping container for storage in the back. So I can't imagine it would be like much. Yeah, I'm definitely going to get on it.
No, that's great.
Yeah.
That's great. No, that's great. Thank you.
Jeff?
I mean, I thought it was great. Marcel didn't have any issues, and that's one of the big concerns usually with extractions is some of the electrical and ventilation. So I was just going to move to open the public hearing if no other planning board members had concerns. So with that, I move to open the public hearing for 74 Industrial Park Road Cosmic Solutions, conditional use amendment.
Second.
Thank you for the motion, Jeff, and the second, Joyce. Any additional discussion? All right, those in favor, Jim,
Yes.
Joyce,
Yes.
Jeff,
Yes.
Camille,
Yes.
Catherine.
Yes.
I vote yes as well. Motion passes 6-0. If anyone is with us this evening to speak on this item, please come to the podium, state your name and address for the record. We will collect comments and address them at the conclusion.
Mr. Chair, seeing no one from the public choosing to speak, I move that we continue the public hearing and review to August 19th to give the applicant time to provide the updated site plan.
Second.
Thank you for the motion, Jeff, and the second, Joyce. Any additional discussion?
Perhaps the staff could prepare draft findings of fact and conditions of approval as well?
Yes.
Great, thank you, Jim. Any additional discussion? All right, those in favor, Jim,
Yes.
Joyce,
Yes.
Jeff,
Yes.
Camille,
Yes.
Catherine.
Yes.
I vote yes as well. Motion passes 6-0. Any final thoughts, questions, concerns?
I think he has a short list of tasks.
Thank you.
Yeah, short list. It sounds like you're on it. We'll have it for the meeting, it sounds like, a week from today. And staff will have conditions of approval and
So just get that done and like email it to you guys and.
yep, right to city staff.
Okay.
Yeah, Paul's pretty familiar with our process. We just need 2 hard copies because we want to get the size so the scale's correct.
But we can get that. We'll have our draft conditions and we can lock it in.
Thank you.
Great.
Good.
Okay, so, sorry, go ahead, Jeff.
I was trying to push it along. I was ready to make a motion on the next item to continue. But if you want to close up, or are you done with this one?
Well, we have to we continued the public hearing, so we'll have to continue application review.
Mr. Chair, I move to continue application review for 74 Industrial Park Road until August 19th.
Second.
Thank you for the motion, Jeff, and the second, Jim. Any additional discussion? All right, those in favor, Jim,
Yes.
Joyce,
Yes.
Jeff?
Yes.
Camille?
Yes.
Catherine?
Yes.
I vote yes as well. Motion passes 6-0. All right, great. We'll see you a week from tonight
So come back here.
on the 19th. Yes. Looking at the date. Yes.
All right. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. All right, our next items, 7F and G. Those items, Emily, Waterfall Drive, residential development, map 63, lot 6, and Cascade Road, map 48, lot 5 and 6. It looks like they have requested to table to future dates.
Yes, I can give you a brief update on each one if you'd like.
Sure, that would be great.
Waterfall Drive, the city engineer and city staff had a couple meetings with the applicant on drainage considerations and other infrastructure specifications, and had issued a review memo recently, and the applicant is working to address the questions and comments from that review memo. They are still aiming for August 19th. The athletic dome, so the Cascade Road property, they have decided to redesign that a little bit, and they are working with coordination on Maine IF&W, which we did recently receive, that IF&W has seen some updated plans, and they've given us some feedback on that. And so the applicant has asked that this item be tabled to September 2nd planning board meeting, and we are pending what I assume will be a revision set to the plan set.
Okay, great, thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions for staff? Okay.
Do we need to make a motion to continue those?
Yes, if we could.
So, Mr. Chair, I move to continue agenda item 7F for Waterfall Drive to August 19th per the applicant's request.
Second.
Second by Jim, thank you. Any additional discussion? Those in favor, Jim?
Yes.
Joyce?
Yes.
Jeff?
Yes.
Camille?
Yes.
Catherine?
Yes.
I vote yes as well. Motion passes 6-0 to table to August 19th.
Mr. Chair, I move to continue agenda item 7G for Cascade Road, map 46, lot 5 and 6, until September 2nd per the applicant's request.
Second.
Thank you for the motion, Jeff, and the second, Jim. Any additional discussion? Those in favor, Jim?
Yes.
Joyce?
Yes.
Jeff?
Yes.
Camille?
Yes.
Catherine?
Abstain.
I vote yes. Motion passes 5-0 with one abstention. And it looks like we have a planning department review memo. Looks like staff has requested this be continued to September 2nd. I don't see a problem with that. Would you like a motion on that item?
That's just a follow-up, I think, from the Cascade. You covered it.
Oh, I see. I read it as I instead of one.
That tends to happen at this hour.
That's funny. Our next item, 8, general correspondence. Any additional general correspondences?
No, thank you.
Great, thank you. And then our next item, you have a note here about some fraud that's been going around.
Yes, I do have some other, just quick updates to give you too under this item. So there is a pretty advanced scam, I would say, going around. where our applicants are receiving emails from scammers looking like maybe they're using AI, we think. And the scammers send a very advanced looking invoice to the applicant. So they use we have projects under review on our webpage where you can see everything. So they use the applicant's contact information from those materials. They send the applicant an email with a demand to pay an invoice at a link or to wire transfer money. And they send a rather advanced looking invoice. It may look a little bit more advanced than ours because we don't have such an AI system. But it says planning board commission, doesn't say planning board. But I mean, other than that, there's really not a lot to tip you off that this is a scam. So we did recently have someone who was about to wire transfer almost $5,000 to this scammer because it looks so advanced, and they wound up sending a check to the city. So, I mean, that worked out, I guess, because then we just returned their money. But anyway, we want to put this on here. We do have a note on our web page about this now. We have alerted communications. We've also alerted IT department, the police department, and it's been advanced for a state review of this issue. So I just want to make sure that we continue to share with applicants, and Lisa does a great job telling applicants that do not pay anyone any money, even though it may look very legitimate to some degree. But so that's why this is on there. We may keep this on there for a few more meetings, just so it's out there publicly. And then the other updates, I'll just run through quickly.
Sure.
We do have a few staff reviews that we have issued for site plan amendments. Just to review briefly our process, when we do a site plan amendment, we send notices out to property owners in the same notification radius that they would get as if the applicant was going to public hearing. We give a 14-day comment period to make sure there's no comments or concerns, or if there are questions or comments or concerns, we address them through the staff level review process, or perhaps they get funneled to the planning board review process, depending on what those are. Then when a staff review gets approved, another letter goes out to everyone in the same notification distance to alert them that there has been an approval in the area. We give them the address, and then that way we preserve appeal periods too. So they're almost getting a mini public hearing period, even though they're not having a hearing in front of a board, but they have the right to send us comments. And then they're also making sure that the appeal period is preserved afterwards. So that's just a little process for the newer board members on how it works. The ones that we have completed are the Hancock Lumber did a very small site plan amendment for adding some small home displays in front of their facility. 48 Industrial, the homes don't work. They're just samples of what homes you could buy from Hancock Lumber, just to be clear. Nobody's living out there. 48 Industrial Park Road, EV chargers, that is like near the hotel there. And so there was a concern from a resident, from an abutting property owner, and the concern was addressed through the process, but that's been issued. And then Pods had a site plan amendment for pavement area Pods across the street from Public Works facility on Phillips Spring Road that was issued as well. And then we will have our Long Range Planning Committee meeting Thursday, August 14th. We have some updates. It'll be in the Public Works training room, so we'll have some updates on where things are at with our long range plans there. And then the last item here is working with the chair. We have a training scheduled for September 16th meeting for Phil Saucier to come in for legal training, as well as to Jeff's question, there will be some SLOTA training. It might be SLOTA light, but there will be SLOTA training in that as well. I think that's all I have. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Emily. Any other thoughts, Questions, concerns from board members on any of that? Any planning board comments? All right, great. Well, thank you everyone for staying with us, and we will adjourn at 9:55 PM. Thank you.